No.
It's a battle I'm losing at home
My dog
about whether or not we
chases
get a cat.
bats.
I want to say no, but it's 2-1 against that, and Ross is actually looking.
Are you ready,
We have
Roger?
mice, and that's why we need a cat.
We'll talk after
Yeah.
the meeting.
That's a permissible topic.
Okay.
Yes, that is permissible.
We
My
are
stray
all-
cat, okay.
We're all set.
For those just joining the video, you've missed an entire conversation about health and pets and stop signs and welcome to the Berlin Select Board meeting for Monday, July 21st. It is 6:30. I call this meeting to order.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
now we all have to check our phones,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Because is
Check your
mine
phones. Yep.
also on make noise?
Yep, sorry.
Unmute.
I was taking calls at work earlier. Mine's it's on mute, so. We're gonna start with the meeting minutes from the June 23rd and July 7th.
Motion to approve?
Seconded?
Are we passing those over?
Oh, yeah, was actually a Passover.
Yes, thank you.
Oops.
See, we're just so excited about this. I was about to say that I can't vote on the ones to the 7th anyway, because I wasn't here, but. The next agenda item is general public comment. If people like to have a comment, please let it be known so we can call you up. And what I might do is jump into our hearings. If people want a public comments afterwards, we'll do it sort of after the public hearing. So we get to start with consideration for an application for common, I will always want to call it, I know it's vehicular, I want to call it vehicular,
Yeah,
but it's vehicular license for Ramen Haven. Why don't you come forward to the table and introduce yourselves? It is your chance to do a short, few second even plug about the business as well.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is John. This is my partner, Jaden. We're representing Ramen Haven today, and we signed our store is in Highland Commons, and then we'll do a Japanese ramen restaurant. Our dishes will include different kinds of ramen, and also we have gluten-free and a vegetarian option for ramen too. And then we also do rice bowls like pork, beef, and then we do wagyu ramen, wagyu rice bowl too. So those wagyus are imported from Japan by our by one of the like a common suppliers that we communicate and work with. And the reason why I want to do this is it's kind of funny because we went he just went fresh out of college. He was a business major, but he's enthusiastic in cooking. So he's like a business student, supposed to go to MBA, but he wants to be a chef. And my undergrad was mechanical engineering, and I took my like master's degree in engineering management, and then I want to open a restaurant. So and we have a group of young people, and we want to do like a Japanese ramen brand, so like a franchise brand, start this brand, and then we raise our fund from different investors, and we start to do this. And the reason why we choose Berlin as the first location is that I live in Clinton. I live in yeah. So I drive through Berlin every day, and then me and my wife we moved here last year and didn't find a lot of Asian cuisines nearby. So that's why. And I was talking to the like the Highland Commons, their management team, and they says there's like a pretty good space for us, and then we decided to have Berlin as our first location. And then yeah, so we wonder if you guys have any questions regarding our business, and we will address any concerns that you have.
Is it all takeout, or is there also eat in as well?
Eating and takeout.
Okay. I assume departments have signed
All the
off.
feedback is positive.
Do you have other?
No, I'm excited.
I just
Okay.
wanted to ask, I don't think it said there wasn't a food permit or business certificate first, and we're still good to approve without those?
Yes, and
Okay.
if you could just have your motion be that you are
Contingent.
contingent
on getting
upon
food permit.
receiving all permits and.
I
just-
somehow thought it was already open and sent my roommate over there last weekend. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And
I-
thank you
I
for
have no
putting,
sense of
yeah,
time, so.
thank you
Yeah.
for putting something vegetarian on the menu.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have people, we're still in renovation, and then every time we're in the store, there are people coming by, they're just yelling at us like, when are you guys open? And we'll always say like, it's opening soon. Yeah,
Good.
but our target opening time will be sometime mid-August. So
Yeah.
our renovation is gonna be finishing like 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll be having the inspection from fire department, also the house inspector, and then we'll be good to open.
And you like share almost even a common wall with a boba tea place too, right?
Yes,
Yes,
Mhm.
so
yes,
that should help
It's a
each
nice
other out,
match.
actually. nicely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Do you know what your hours will be yet?
It'll be common hours between like 11 a.m. to 9 p.m.
we have to sign.
Mhm.
Sorry, just at a moment where I realized I have to sign things tonight. You're gonna have a really fun signature of mine on the application. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the permit, pending food permit and business certificate, which are not in yet.
Seconded?
Is there any more conversation?
Mhm.
And all in favor? Say aye.
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 All right, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
I look
you.
forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
it.
Yeah, thank you.
My roommate will probably be over there quite often.
Not a bad thing.
No.
Awesome. So you need to sign that now, or are you good?
Um,
No, it's
No.
not the permit.
right, it's not
Okay.
super good, yeah. I'll sign everything we sign at one point when I can cringe less.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
you
you.
coming in.
Yeah.
Yummy.
Just looking, so the second hearing we have tonight is considering of a special event application to hold Solomon Pond Fest at the Solomon Pond Mall on August 16th. Submitted by Liz Kelly,
Who's not here?
and she
It's
is,
not here, but someone was going to be here from her office. I don't see them.
Chuck or Alex?
No.
No.
For the prudent investing.
Oh, okay.
right.
Do we want to wait?
Um,
Maybe she'll come in late.
We can hold it for at least a little bit. So Paul, why don't we bring you up then? Board of Health, talking about the landfill and transfer station discussions.
We'll start with a handout, means nothing to any of you at the moment.
Thank you.
That's
A little recap, back in the fall, we were contacted by DEP indicating that we needed to do 2 third-party inspections via engineers, one of the transfer station and one of the landfill, which has been closed since 1983. The transfer station inspection went well, everything's copacetic. It's an inspection that will occur every 2 to 3 years according to DEP regs. The landfill inspection is certainly more involved. What you're looking at is a map indicating a plan of attack for the landfill inspections. This is the only copy I have. It's a little vague. I mean, there are colored dots that are missing in the background. They're there, but they're hard to see. So to summarize it, we're going to need to dig approximately 30 test holes in the existing cover. And there will be 6 monitoring wells put in around the landfill, 1 for groundwater and 1 for possible landfill gas. These things are going to happen in, I'll call it a sequence. The first, in a couple of stages. The first stage is to determine the landfill cap assessment, which is the test holes in on the surface of the landfill. What that involves is a backhoe digging down through the cover material till we hit refuse, being monitored by engineers and occasionally DEP. They're going to check the depth of the cover material. And once that is done, the material they dug out, excuse me, has to be put back in, kind of in the order it was taking out. But before that happens, the bottom of, I'll call it the pit, and it's probably going to be about 3 foot by 4 foot and depth unknown at this point, needs to be covered with a material called bentonite, which is a special clay that comes from Wyoming or Montana. And when it hits water, it expands 15 times. So it's kind of like sealing the excavation. Bentonite is used to, if someone's putting in a pond, they will often use bentonite to seal the base of the pond so the water just doesn't leach out. That's a DEP requirement. A bag of bentonite goes for about $106, but buying in quantity, it's going to be more like $50. And right now it's estimated at a couple bags per hole to be determined. So the cap assessment, which is the first thing in terms of a timetable, that will happen sometime this year. I'm waiting for the definitive proposal from Ty and Bond. We had a Zoom meeting with DEP a week or two ago. Everything is in order. DEP is going to we have to apply. I love this. We have to apply to do this testing with the DEP. They could take up to 60 days to approve the application, which fundamentally they've already said okay to based on this, but it's their procedure, no comment. So the cap assessment, the depth of cover is the first stage, and we anticipate doing that sometime this year, before the end of the year. I am going to reach out to Highway Department to see if this is something they can accommodate in their schedule. If not, we will have to go to an outside contractor to come in and dig these holes. And the estimate is probably 2 to 3 days worth of work to dig these 28 or 30 test holes. The second part of the landfill engineering review will occur after the first of the year. And that is going to be monitoring wells for landfill gas and groundwater. And with that goes a monitoring of surface water, which doesn't require any wells or anything to that effect. The wells could go down 15, 20 feet. And there will be an immediate monitoring, but monitoring will occur at least 4 times a year. I was not aware of this, but landfill gas can move laterally. That's why that dictates the placement of some of these test wells. They want to make sure that there's nothing going to any neighboring residents. And it caught me by surprise, certainly, but even after these initial stages of cap assessment and monitoring wells for gas and water, the DEP requires 30 years of monitoring of these. So the Board of Health is going to have to create a new line item budget to address that. Initially, it'll be quarterly, and that should decrease over time. I am hopeful that I will call our landfill kind of vanilla. It's been closed for 40 years, was never really used as an industrial site. I am hopefully anticipating that there's really not going to be any bad news, that we're just going to have to go through these monitoring systems to find out what's up. Yeah, the wells would be put in during the winter, this coming winter, 25, 26, and the monitoring is likely to start in the spring of 26. I am awaiting a proposal from Ty and Bond for this section. The proposals in contracts that we've had with Ty and Bond were for the third-party transfer station inspection and third-party inspection of the landfill, which produced this. Moving forward relative to monitoring, that's a different animal, different contract, that's in draft form. They hope to get it to me within the next week or 10 days. It's being viewed by their, by the higher ups, I guess. There won't be any disruption to transfer station operation. There may be a couple holes or wells that we have to cordon off or block off, but nothing that's going to have any detrimental effect to our ongoing operations there. And that's the snapshot of it. Any questions? I'll try and answer.
Cost. Ish. We like ish.
I'm waiting for a proposal.
Okay.
And, you know, the cost, if highway is able to do the cap assessment holes, all right, there's a cost to the town.
Right.
But not
I'm
as high
not
as
sure, I'm not sure yet how to deal with that. Do we have to compensate highway, or is there some accounting maneuver there? Or we will be bringing somebody in from the outside. The engineering firm will give me a quote on that, but I think there are a lot of local contractors that would be willing to do that, and I'd like to think we'd get a little bit of a hometown discount. So I really, you know, all I can tell you is it'll be in the thousands, my guess. I don't know whether it'll be 10, 15, or 30. Monitoring, the ongoing monitoring shouldn't be, the initial monitoring will have a cost, I'm sure. The ongoing should not be particularly expensive. I mean, that's quarterly. I'll be interested to see what the contract is, because DEP has said this has to go on for 30 years. I'm not going to enter into a 30-year contract, certainly, but, you know, 3-year chunks or 5-year chunks or something like that. We'll see what Ty and Bond say, and once all this assessment is done and wells put in and all that, we're going to be free to bring in somebody else to do the monitoring and hopefully get a competitive price. Ty and Bond has been really pretty decent to work with so far. I have no complaints. We communicate several times a week. And that's really it at the moment in terms of information that I have. Unfortunately, costs, you know, maybe at the next select board meeting, I would have some costs, approximate costs that I could pass on to you, or email to Kristen, and she can disperse the information.
Are we aware of how many other communities have sort of been caught up in this? Is this sort of a widespread?
I know the town of Princeton has been.
Okay.
I think one of the things that happened is, I'm going to say, I'm on film. Huh? One of the things that COVID did was bring about some changes in DEP. Some of the old school employees left for whatever reason. They've brought in new, younger staff. environmental engineers, and I think the quality of their talent increased considerably so that they started looking around now that they have a new team to work with, new manpower. They started looking around the state for these little landfills like ours to see, you know, at the size of our landfill, it hasn't really been on the radar because it's not a risk situation. Fortunately, I was able to prod them along to, while we're going through this, that they need to be taking a hard look at the Hudson landfill on Gates Pond Road, which I did walk with DEP at one point. You know, I have talked to Princeton, they're going through the same thing. Their intention is really the same that I have. Let's get through this so that we can use this site for solar, which may or may not happen here in the near future, depending on what Washington does. But that's really the only useful purpose for that piece of land once we get the okay. But other small towns, I mean, they've identified, to the best of my knowledge, towns like Berlin, Princeton. I'm not sure of any others, but I know there are small towns out there in the same situation. DEP just didn't put a priority on them. You know, if there were a big landfill that took in industrial commercial waste, then yeah, they were on the list certainly, as they should be.
For the chair.
Yes.
Just two questions.
Yeah.
Has DEP confirmed that they would let the highway dig the holes as opposed to an LSP or an engineering firm?
Through the engineering firm, they're fine because they're really the first wave. DEP is not going to be there. It's unlikely that they're going to be there for every hole. They're going to come in and spot monitor. And they really leave it to the engineering firm to make sure that things are done appropriately. So they're on the hook with that. And as I talked to my engineering contact today, we're both going to welcome DEP's participation because we don't want to have to go back and redo anything. You know, we want to make sure it gets done right the first time, done. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, according to Ty and Bond, DEP generally works with them and with towns to get, they're more interested in the final results
Okay.
because they will participate in the monitoring, so at a level where they're comfortable. So it makes it a little easier for everybody.
Yeah, they're a very reputable firm. I've worked with them in the past. They're very good. I just didn't know if, given the fact that it was a landfill, if they would let someone who wasn't a licensed site professional drill the holes, because usually they're pretty picky about that.
Well, in terms of the monitoring wells, there are several companies that do work not for DEP, because it's usually for the municipality, but there's several companies, one in Lancaster and another one that's fairly local. I don't remember what town, that are approved, sanctioned, whatever.
The only other question I had or mentioning, because the 30 years of monitoring, I'm familiar with, we had a capped landfill in my former community. One of the things we did, you know, there's, like you said, there's certain years you have to do some things. It's not every year, it's 2 to 3 years. So we did, I know you don't like articles, but we did do an article for the landfill so that it could carry over, and then you replenish it at town meeting as you need more money, because it's difficult every year to estimate how much that cost
Okay,
is
so it
going to
was,
be.
just so I understand, it was a general article
Yep.
that addresses this
Yeah.
Yep.
with kind of a renewal every year or every other year.
Whenever
depending
you need to replenish it.
Replenish
Right.
it, okay.
But if in this case, you can get a cost that's set annually, then you could add it as a line item budget
Okay.
number.
Okay, good.
But that gives you a little more flexibility as an article, because that way if it's, you know, you have an average and it might be a little higher one year, it might be a little lower one year, but you have that funding.
Yeah, we're kind of wading into the unknown when it comes to the whole monitoring aspect. Depends on what they find.
I'm wondering as we go down this, I wouldn't make the starting point, but if conventional wisdom is that you monitor a landfill for 30 years after it's capped for leachage, that's had 40 years on it already, whether or not we need to monitor it for 70 years after it's capped, especially one that didn't have industrial waste. And then I'm wondering, again, I don't think we fight, and you would fight, we don't start the fight there, but you
Mhm.
know, whether or not we can work with them and our legislatures and others, because again, other towns of the states waited so long, the numbers aren't going to change much after 40
No.
years after.
Well, frankly, that's kind of a murky area. Technically, it can go on for 30 years, and technically, the DEP can make it
go
go on
on.
even longer than that. So, you know, some of this is gonna shake out probably 10, 15 years from now.
Mhm.
Particularly if the test results and monitoring results are consistently the same.
Right.
And falling under hazardous radar. You know, I can't imagine a dogfight.
Well, and that's why your costs may vary, because it's really driven
Sure.
annually by what they find.
Right.
Maybe at some point there will be an appeal process, or we could encourage an appeals process, but.
Other questions?
None.
The timing could end up being decent in that we do have a fall town meeting on November 17th, where September will be article opening.
I should have,
Something to put in and. even-
should have a bunch of new information, long before that. So we can, explore whatever needs that we're looking at.
I can definitely just make a note.
Yeah, I
on
was gonna say a
list of
placeholder now,
potential
yeah.
articles.
Okay.
Say it,
Yeah.
and then when we get closer to find out how real or not real that is for town meeting. Great.
Yep, wait,
thanks.
wait for more.
Liz is on now.
Oh.
Yes. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
Paul.
Paul, appreciate
I
you.
need to, hopefully, the board doesn't mind, but I need to segue to a different topic
Oh, sure.
very briefly.
Yep.
We recently had a complete streets meeting. There's another one coming up. Back in January, I approached the board and said, you know, explain the situation with the 1870 house and the neighboring house, how there's a shared septic system. And if there is an ownership change in that house, that is going to trigger Title V's, and it could become a legal rat's nest. And my purpose back in January is to say, let's do a Title V on this so we know where we stand, because if the complete streets goes in, and then we're faced with digging up roads to address this, that's just really foolish. And we need to be proactive. This isn't a Board of Health thing. This is common sense taxpayer thing, because it would affect everybody. You need to do a Title V so that you can find out what the 1870 has, what it's capable of, because ultimately you want to generate revenue with the 1870. But right now, without knowing the septic capacity, you really can't. So I just implore you folks to start taking some action on this. The Lindsay property next door is tied into the 1870, and that goes to a leach field on First Parish property. So you have three players. Franny Burke back in the early 2000s tried to address this with the select board, with First Parish. Got no response. There's plenty of documentation of his efforts back then. And, we're in 2025. There's no reason for this not to be dealt with. And I'm personally really concerned because I know something about construction. Complete streets comes in, sidewalks, pavement, and all of a sudden, oh, we've got to fix this septic problem.
Didn't we
The word, I can't use the words to describe.
Oh.
Yeah,
I think we already started that process.
We did. It's not on the agenda, so I don't want to go too much
Mhm.
into it, but we've been working on it. We had Howard Stein Hudson is aware.
has the Title V been ordered or asked for?
we asked for a quote for what needed to be done in terms of checking what they recommended that we do in terms of checking the pipe, checking the septic leach field. And there came to be an issue of property lines and ownership.
Hmm.
And so they recommended we stop and do a title search, and I'm in the process of getting a price. for
Okay,
that.
I would appreciate it that if you would keep the Board of Health somewhat apprised of that situation.
Absolutely.
Um,
As soon as I have the quote, I'll send it your way.
Because if we get questions and,
Sure.
you know, based on the initial Complete Streets meeting, there could be an expanded area for the septic system because they're eliminating, based on the first plan, they're eliminating the left turn off of Woodward onto Central Street, which I personally suspect, because that system is so old, that the leach field is going to have to be expanded for proper use of the 1870. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
We're gonna, promote Liz. So we're gonna go back to item B, which is the consideration of the special event application to hold Solomon Pond Fest at the Solomon Pond Mall on August 16th.
Which is a Saturday.
Yes. There we go. Liz is being promoted. She can, unmute. No, we still can't hear.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
There you are.
Hey, Liz.
Sorry. Hi. Well, I don't know why you can't see me. I do have my camera on. But it seems like I have a black screen going.
That's okay. So tell us about Solomon Pond Fest on the 16th.
So it's a one-day event. Rather than doing our music series like we've done in the last couple of years, we decided to just host a one-day event, family friendly, during the day, so as not to disturb the neighbors. 10 to 4, music in the afternoon. Really, we'll have a DJ starting at 10. And then Ayla Brown from noon to 2, and then the DJ finishing off the day from 2 to 4. Face painting, yard games. We're going to have a child ID event, some food trucks, some vendor tables. Some of them are mall vendors, some are outside vendors. Same with the food. We have food trucks, but then also mall vendors, all of which are going through the appropriate approval with the town and the Board of Health. Lost You Brewery's coming. We also have another like wine truck, decanted wine truck coming. And it's really just like kind of an all-day activity event out in our little grassy area, downstairs behind the play area. And I don't know, I think that's kind of everything, unless you guys have questions.
Lisa, do you have?
I don't.
Yeah.
It sounds like fun.
It sounds like a really fun event. I hope your estimated attendance as well. I hope you get more people than you're estimating there, because it sounds like a really good event.
Oh, I
feedback-
forgot, touch a truck too for the kids. Sorry, forgot that part.
A fire truck, you said?
Touch a truck.
A
Touch a
truck.
truck.
Touch truck.
So there'll be some police cars. We have some of our, like our snow removal contractor is gonna bring some of his big equipment, and so the kids can touch a truck too.
Nice. Department feedback?
All positive,
All positive?
yes. All
Uh,
requirements were forwarded on to Liz and she's aware.
Okay. Where's the-
Motion to approve.
Seconded. I attended your Thursday events and they were absolutely fabulous. So looking forward to this one.
I did
We
a
loved
couple of
having you
those
there.
events as well. All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Liz.
Great,
you.
thank you guys. Have
Good
a
luck on
great
the
evening.
event.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
That goes on. I have more tabs open on my screen, trying to find the right one to get back to. So the next hearing is the prudent investment discussion.
Thank you. We have Chuck Patterson and Alex from Bartholomew here with us this evening. Dee, if you could promote them both, please. And this is a continuation of the discussion we had regarding the prudent investment policy that the board would need to adopt in order to begin investing funds in accordance with that prudent investment prudent investment law that was approved at the May town meeting. I'm sorry, the December town meeting. And I know there were some questions about some of the investments with companies or businesses. So I did ask Chuck if he would come, and he noted that Alex is quite familiar with that particular method of investing. And so I didn't know if you might be able to start off, Alex, by talking a little bit about, well, introduce yourselves, of course, and talk a little bit about, that type of investing, how it differs from the type of investing that we're doing now without having gone prudent, if you will.
Right.
Chuck, you want to introduce us?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we've been introduced, we are Bartholomew and Company. We manage city and town funds for probably about 300 different municipal entities here in the Commonwealth, totaling about $3 billion in municipal money. And what you're talking about tonight is a law changed about 2 years ago where cities and towns were allowed to invest prudently versus what they used to be allowed to do was use what we called here in Massachusetts the list of legal investments. It comprised of about 22 stocks with a high concentration in one area, and that was the pharmaceutical area. About a quarter of the stocks on the list were pharmaceuticals. So the governor and the Mass Collector Treasurers moved a piece of legislation out and was signed by the governor 2 years ago, which now allows cities and towns to invest in a more diversified manner, not only on their fixed income side of their portfolio, but also on their equity side. So that's the summary of what you guys have already voted. I'll turn it now over to Alex, and then he can let you know what that means specifically when it comes to the securities that we or the town would be able to purchase. Alex.
Sure. Thanks, Chuck. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. Like Chuck said, my name is Alex Bartholomew. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Bartholomew and Company. And not knowing what the questions you had at your previous discussion, at your prior meeting, the limitations of the legal list that you were able to invest on earlier was predominantly fixed income. So lower returns, lower risk, cash, CDs, treasuries, agencies, a very short list of corporate bond issuers, and an even shorter list of common stock. So for diversified trust funds, whether your portfolio is library funds, scholarship funds, cemetery perpetual care, so on and so forth, many of these funds really would benefit from not only a higher risk profile, but a more diversified portfolio to represent that risk profile. Historically, the list of legal investments, which this is really all behind us now that we do have this new legislation, was kind of seen as safe in the eyes of treasurers who are the custodians of these funds, because it was what was legal. It was really going out on a limb to either get a legal opinion or go for special legislation to become to exempt yourself from this list. But now that it's more widespread in the Commonwealth, finally, it's now taking a complete 180, where it is more advantageous and more prudent to really start investing these funds appropriately. And oftentimes it's with more risk for longer forward-looking returns. Now, when you do that, you don't want to necessarily use the list of legal investments. As Chuck said, there's only 22 common stocks we can buy. And the biggest risk in using the legal list to do that is concentration risk. We really want to emphasize a greater level of diversification globally in all asset classes, equities, fixed income, alternatives when appropriate. And so I believe that that is at least somewhere in the vicinity of the context you've talked about, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions or concerns that you have about the investment policy and how that will direct the portfolio going forward.
How many communities did you say that you were currently managing?
Currently, we manage for about 300, and since the legislation was passed, probably heading towards 6 have already switched over to the prudent investor statute.
Are the communities that you support, are they representative of the population of Berlin or size of Berlin?
We probably have
All sizes,
almost
yeah.
every city and town in Central Mass. So it's yeah, it's a lot of your neighbors.
So I tend to be part of that sort of old-fashioned crowd, because when I hear sort of more risk, I heard more likely to lose money that belongs to the taxpayers. And so, although I agree that the previous sort of rule of only these 20 stocks and only these sort of things needs some flexibility, I worry that prudent investing might go too far, and then in a down market or a crazy market or an unknown market, that the odds that we've increased the chance that we're going to lose taxpayer dollars. And so I am trying to figure out a way to, because I read the policy as, and I don't know, they've seen the draft policy, right? 'Cause I think it's popular, but it says that, you know, that up to 5% in one stock, that means that we could have all of our investments in 20 stocks, you know?
I think that's a lot of
I both from a
language.
stock perspective and a foreign investment perspective, those are the two things that I am most concerned about.
So I think there's a lot of language like that 5% that is inherited from the list of legal investments. I want to say, yeah, but because the largest companies in the index domestically could certainly add up to 5% of the portfolio if held individually. But this type of portfolio would most likely have exposure indirectly through mutual funds and ETFs to mimic and closely be monitored to the underlying index, the underlying market. So we're not taking on more concentration risk than we should in any way, shape, or form. And also the risk is taken into account in a number of different ways when we sit down with either communities, boards, committees, the treasurer. We look at spending practices, we look at spending levels, we look at the amount of the portfolio that's a non-expendable that can't be spent regardless of whether the market's up or down. We take all these things into account and more, including talking to the stakeholders about what their level of appetite for risk is and determine what that level should be. But in most cases, we're increasing risk because in most cases, these portfolios were invested to the stabilization of the CPA's risk tolerance, which is very, very low. So even if you're increasing risk a little bit, to be more prudent because of those spending practices, because of that non-expendable, we do have to keep in mind that if we don't take the risk, because these are perpetual, in most cases, I'm going to say most cases, perpetual time horizon securities, the argument can be made that we may not be acting as prudent institutional investors, because if the market goes up, we're not going to take on more risk and be emotional. If the market goes down, we're also not going to do that. We're going to stick to the investment policy. We're going to rebalance, and markets go up over time to increase the purchasing power of future withdrawals to benefit the town.
Right. So I think we approach risk a little differently because in some respects, I'm thinking about risk as the risk to the principal of the taxpayer dollars, where I think you're talking about the risk of loss of potential of what could be made. Because I agree that if we put everything into a 1% CD, that we have that guaranteed 1%. And if the market starts going up 10 or 15, or frankly, if you were in better bonds that were at 5 or 10, you've missed out on some opportunity. But our chances at any loss is near zero. And so it is true that to take advantage of some of that upside, we have to take the risk that we might lose some money.
And that's why the investment policy statement is so important. So that when we finally sit down and start to invest this money, everybody understands those risk levels. Possibly in cities and towns, you try not to lose principal because that's not anybody's goal. But that's why the establishment of a good, solid investment policy statement at the outset is so important to us at Bartholomew and Company, and certainly back over to you guys in town.
And then for at the end of the policy we have here, and I like it, is sort of the investment parameters, which I think is what you're talking about as we sit
Mhm.
down and talk about those. How
Yep.
often do towns typically go back and revisit the investment parameters? Because my guess is you're obviously not doing it like weekly where they're buying and selling things. This is not a churn or day trading sort of thing. What's a prudent way or the best way to sort of look at how often that should be adjusted?
We do reviews with the treasurers twice a year. But the deep dive into the policy usually starts now after the fiscal year, because that way there we find out what the spending policies are, if they've changed at town meeting. And we talk at that point in time, all right, do we not have enough risk? Do we have too much risk? Are we going to start spending more money? So all those conversations happen at minimally annually, and that doesn't count what Alex's team does when they're actually managing the portfolio on a day-to-day basis. And he can speak to that.
The portfolio is largely going to be very close to those long-term targets that you see down the middle of that table in addendum number 1. In order for us to get close to or even beyond in very, very infrequent cases, the minimums and maxes in those asset classes of it has to be a market dislocation as dramatic as March of 2020, where we really have to act, which is what we're paid to do, to take advantage of an asset class that's dropped for a particular reason or not. Other than that, in the normal volatility of the market, even today with all of the very fast news cycle, we are very close to those long-term targets in the middle. And again, that's what we are paid for. You don't want to hire us to manage a 60-40 account and then have a review a year from now and see that it's 70-30 or 80-20. And I'm talking about stock to bond mix.
And then make the argument about why a local government agency should be investing anything in international bonds or stocks.
Sure.
Because I think that it not only has the risk of those individual stocks and bonds, but you introduce currency risk, which also could be pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
So currency is treated very differently on the stock and the bond side. On the equity side, it's definitely a diversifier, and we're seeing that here in 2025 for the first time in quite a while, where the dollar is reducing in value and international equities are outperforming domestic by quite a lot. On the fixed income side, we almost exclusively own dollar denominated or dollar hedged international fixed income, and it's a much smaller portion of the portfolio in most cases. But it all comes back to diversification. We're starting to see fixed income markets globally dislocate from the U.S. Treasury, similar to the equity markets dislocating from the domestic markets. I mean, our valuation, if you think of the biggest companies, Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Netflix, Meta, Google, their PE ratios, price to earning ratios, are multiples higher and more expensive than international companies. Now, as an American investor, we can only see that add value to an all domestic portfolio when the dollar, our currency versus all the foreign currencies, doesn't continue to appreciate. And because of our current fiscal stance at the federal level, with the budget deficit and the rising balance sheet, we are starting to see that happen. And so as an institutional investor, and with that time horizon of perpetuity, we do think that makes a lot of sense for a properly diversified portfolio.
And I think I know the answer, but I sometimes like asking the questions anyway. What is your dislike of balanced funds? Because your target is 0 on that one versus the equities or incomes or fixed incomes?
Sure. So we have balanced in there in the addendum, in the draft template, because our reporting technically has that a section if we held any investment that showed up there as that asset class. Balanced or asset allocation fund simply means an investment that has both stock and bond exposure. You're paying us to build the portfolio. If you paid us and we ended up buying asset allocation funds, then we really wouldn't be doing our jobs. So while a portfolio can hold it, and at times we could be directed maybe to buy something, we're not going to use our discretion to put something in the portfolio that's really outsourcing the job you're paying us to do.
And then under which one of these buckets does like commodities, or do you just not, commodities is not something we're allowed to trade in?
No, you can trade in commodities. How you do that is another conversation, but under the alternatives bucket is where you would either find long commodities, precious metals, long short, managed futures, exposures in that type of space on a number of different ways.
Thanks. I mean, those are the type of questions. I think at some point I would gather with some of the percentages, but I don't think that's a conversation for today.
Scott, I know you did have one other question that
good.
came to mind, was about the fees and how that works compared to fees that we currently have. Could you explain a little bit about how the fees would work with Bartholomew?
Certainly. I'll touch upon our direct fees. Based off of the balances that you have with us, you would start for anything under $2 million. We would charge 60 basis points. And then that pays ourselves, our broker dealer, which today is Commonwealth Financial Network, and our custodian, National Financial Services, which is a subsidiary of Fidelity. As it moves up in value, the fees go down, 5 basis points every $1 million until I think we get to 5 million, and then then every $5 million it drops. So at, for instance, 20 million, you'd be at 20 basis points. So you start at 60 basis points at under 2, and then it goes. If you're fortunate enough to have over 20 million, it goes down from there also. So it's in the total relationship of with the town. And then if Alex wanted to talk about anything else, but that's how we get paid. Other people would get paid as a where they would buy something at $99 and they would put it into your portfolio. We are fiduciaries, and we must always act in the town's best interest. And that's where the fee-based relationships come in.
Right. In some respects, like even my own retirement funds, that your fees go up as the value of what you manage goes up. And so it's in your best interest to make sure that we don't lose money too.
Correct.
Chris, do you have what's the ballpark we would talk about putting under there or under this advisor? Because I assume we're not putting every penny. We still need something in the bank accounts to cash flow, payroll and other things like that. And just
Right. You'd be talking about, we have a lot of little trusts.
Yes.
And they don't amount to much individually.
Right.
But those, we're talking about investments, you're not generally
Yep.
utilizing them.
Mhm.
You would talk about those. You would look at stabilization. You would look, and we have several types of stabilization: general, capital, energy, and public safety mitigation. You would also look at CPA, what we can invest from there that isn't allocated towards projects. So I can tell you between CPA and stabilization, you're looking at about 4 million right there.
And then like things like free cash or so the type of stuff that we would keep at like the local banks.
We would keep it, well, it depends on what we're looking at, like grant funding, and obviously the funding that we need to set aside for payroll and payables that we're generating from tax revenue every year. Chuck, can you speak to free cash? I'm not sure if that's something that's typically invested. I didn't think so.
You are correct, Kristen. This is only money that there's 2 laws that come into play in this. Chapter 44, Section 55, and that is your general operating money. That is the town's bank accounts. So that cannot be invested. This is only your trust funds, your stabilization, your cemetery perpetual care, your CPA. They fall under Chapter 4454 for the record, and they then can be invested. So, Kirsten, I'm sorry, the free cash aspect, that money is already sitting in bank accounts, and that cannot be invested other than in bank accounts or CDs.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's sort of also why the cash number is near zero in this, is that they're like, if we wanted it in cash, we might as well just keep it in the bank accounts we have here and not give them to manage, you
Right.
know, money that's ultimately just sits at Clinton Savings or something.
Correct.
Okay, I think I generally get it, and we'll see if I can loosen my New England cheapness about it a bit. And so what the process would be ultimately that we would pass a policy and then have a conversation about sort of within the policy, how to narrow it down, like, because again, I don't think today's conversation is, I want domestic equities at 19, not 21%, which is not an opinion, that's just an example. Like, I don't know, we're not sitting here debating percentages at this point, right?
Right, I mean, you
Or is that something-
can
yep.
change the investment parameters, and my understanding, and Chuck, correct me again if I'm wrong, but my understanding is once you pass this policy, you're authorizing the treasurer to work with Bartholomew to stay within these parameters, but do the investments because the treasurer has authority over investment of all funds.
And that is correct.
Yeah, and that's similar to what happens now. It's just, this is a little bit more of a, I'm gonna go ahead and say, it's a little bit more of a grown-up way to do it.
Correct. I like that way.
We're moving from the passbook account approach that we're doing now.
I like my passbook.
Yes, but would you put your retirement fund in a passbook account?
You'd be surprised how much of my retirement funds
Oh
are
my
currently in
God.
passbook type accounts, but yes.
And I think your comment
Only
about
like it's 50-30 bucks.
My
passbook,
daughter
Right.
doesn't have money in a
Do you know
passbook
what a
account.
pass, what
I don't
those
care.
books are?
Savings.
I don't know what they are.
Was it
You used to get a little book
WCIS
where they
you
would
get
write
a
in
book
your
that invited you?
deposit and they were like the
Just
smallest
put it in the
interest
table
rates
stamp.
ever.
Oh, yeah, you get like, you go in and like, hey, I had 2 more
Yeah.
cents of interest I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
I can
Mhm.
buy 3 pieces of candy with that.
You do know how to
Um,
balance a checkbook.
This is a good
Yeah.
thing. It's a modernization thing.
I won't oppose the policy. I think we're likely to vote it. I think 5% in any individual stock is way too high.
Okay.
I also think that 61% in equities is way too high, although I also get that's not the target, that's the maximum. But
Are the ones that are in there the ones that you would typically recommend, or is there a range, or where did those numbers come from?
the 5% is actually written in Mass General laws. So it says that you're not allowed to have more than 5% in any one stock and not more than 5% in the banking industry. So that's actually written in the law. So once we
So it's
start
not
to
saying you're
invest,
going to do that, it's just saying you wouldn't do more than that because you have a stop. Yeah,
Correct.
that's a high number.
that's not necessarily your strategy per se.
Yeah,
No.
the expectation should not be that you're going to see a portfolio review in the future and see that level of concentration risk from us.
Because the whole point is to diversify more.
Absolutely.
Correct.
I'd still like to see the equities and income numbers swapped.
To
But-
instead of like a 60-40 or 40-60.
Yeah. I mean, because really right now, for the most part, the ultra conservative, not prudent approach that most tenants are, the passbook account now is almost 80 or 90 in fixed incomes. And so the idea that we're going from that to 40% seems a lot to me, but there's also, it takes a vote of the select board to change it if we thought we were going out there. There are ranges on this, and so, we could end up You can't end up with 40-60 with this chart, but you could end up with more fixed income than equities, even staying within the range of this chart. So
Chuck or Alex, can you speak a little bit to how you're managing the funds? This isn't something that you're just kind of setting and forgetting, is my understanding. You're looking at these and these are your standard recommendations for municipalities. So this isn't something where you're putting us at a different recommended amount than other cities or towns.
That's correct. I mean, generally, in almost any case, spending practices or the anticipation of spending practices, investors end up along the same part of the efficient frontier, the risk curve. So can you be more conservative? Absolutely. Can you be more aggressive? All of that can be reviewed in the future at any point in time. Policy can be updated. It's also why we structure the policy the way that we do, where we have the risk profile separate. Sorry, the phone's ringing in the background. As an addendum, because the body of the policy with all the words telling you what you can and cannot do maybe doesn't change, but you can pull addendum number 1 out, update the risk profile easily without actually adopting a new policy. And the treasurer can do that, on the fly after a fiscal year review as the custodian. So, sorry, the phone's ringing. It all goes back to spending practices. It goes back to time horizon, which in this case is perpetuity. It goes back to that non-expendable balance. So none of these recommendations are made in a vacuum, but changes can be made. The progress to a certain goal can be reviewed in the future, and it can be adjusted in the future if it's not going according to plan, either increasing risk or decreasing risk.
And that speaks to another type of money that cities and towns, and that's their OPEB. As you may recall, other post-employment benefits, a lot of those our treasurers started out at 50-50, 50% equity, 50% fixed income. And then over time, when our cities and towns understood risk, they've moved all the way up to 70-30. So don't look at this policy or a decision as something that can't change. You might say, geez, we're not spending our principal at all. So let's let it grow some more, and you might go 65-35 a year from now, or the treasurer may come back to you and say, hey, I've done my review, let's change it. Maybe it should go the other way. But don't look at today's policy as forever. Things can change. Things can change.
questions?
No, a lot of the questions that I had, you kind of went through, so I just took notes on the side of the page.
What's your pleasure on the policy?
I mean, I'm a cautious investor. I like how it's finally been updated. I think the last one was 2010, so 15 years later, here we come with a new policy. Yay, about time. The numbers that, what, Scott, it depends upon the given day. I mean, it depends upon the US economy, it depends upon the global economy, it depends upon who shot a missile
Right.
at somebody and what just blew
that's-
up
Well,
and
That's why we pay, I mean,
them.
that's why
Is
we
it-
pay
But
experts.
even with, professional managers,
Pay
but the amount of
Kathy.
Yeah,
lost I've lost a third to half of my portfolio twice in my lifetime between the 2000 crash and the 2008
Yeah,
crash.
but
And
we're not allowed as a municipality to enter into that.
no,
that-
but if 50% of our stuff's in stocks and the stock market goes down by 20%, hard to bring that
But
stuff
it-
back.
It's also sitting there over a
Long-term.
long period of
Right, but
time.
I'm
So even
also-
though you did that, it recovered itself.
Well, and it did because I dollar cost averaging invested, $20 a week for the time. We're not investing equal $20 a week because most of it will be invested once. It sometimes will go up a little bit and down a little bit. But again,
I would like to
I'll
point
be
out, if I
fine
can,
passing the policy. Yeah.
I would like to point out that some of the balances that were discussed earlier, stabilization, CPA, are not being considered for this investment policy.
Correct.
So the money that you rely on in the worst of times, like stabilization, the money you rely on, which has 100% expendable balance like CPA, for its purposes, are still bound by the list of legal investments, which will have, I would assume, Chuck, the conversation was somewhere between 10 and 20% in equity at
Correct.
most. So the money of the town, of any community, that you're discussing for this type of investment policy tend to be scholarship funds with non-expendable balances, library funds that are trying to be used to supplement the budget and buy books, cemetery perpetual care, which is one of the very few legislated types of money that has true non-expendable. Those are the biggest types of buckets that you tend to find in these accounts, but the money you need for the balance sheet of the community is still bound by the list of legal investments. So that $4+ million, I think that was mentioned earlier, most of it's not going to be invested at this risk profile.
Correct. And that's because the law, the stabilization law says it has to stay with the legal list. So that's those other stocks. And because of its concentration and because of the cash draw that you unexpectedly may need someday out of the stabilization, we're at 10 to 20 max. And that's it. So when you're concerned over drawing down your savings accounts, that's in a different bucket. We are only talking with the prudent investor, like Alex said, those truly long-term investment accounts.
So would that be just the trusts then?
Yes.
Essentially? Okay.
Yeah.
No, I
Correct.
appreciate the clarification because I know that the CPA and the stabilization had come into question before. So thank you.
They cannot. I shouldn't say that. Stabilization definitely cannot go prudent. There is some discussion of CPA, but we are not of the mindset of placing CPA in the prudent bucket.
And my gut feeling too is that based on our legislature, that this is a very conservative approach still. They would never
Oh, yeah.
have let it through.
That
if
there's
it was
definitely
not
way
a-
riskier than and big bang things out there that both I and friends and others have invested in. So yeah, I agree that it's still a relatively conservative list.
Mhm.
Is there a motion? Do you have more
Uh,
questions?
I'm gonna motion to approve the prudent investing policy.
Seconded.
Is there more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you for all the discussion and the information part. It was quite helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
both.
good night.
Appreciate you. Thank
Thank you
you.
for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank you for having us.
I think that is done with hearings and presentations. I think we move on to the town administrator report.
To pull it up here. Go. So as I had mentioned at the last meeting, we were working with OpenGov, which is our building permit software that's online to add a fire permitting module. And we have come to an agreement with them. So the good news is I wanted to make sure if we were going to enter into an agreement on the fire side, that they weren't going to hit us on the back end on the building side. So they have agreed to just a 5% increase for we have 1 year left on the building contract. So this is essentially a total 3-year contract, including this current FY26. So they've agreed for the additional 2 years on the building side to just a 5% increase per year, which I'm seeing is pretty standard across all of the contracts that we have for data systems. And the cost to add the fire permitting software would be $10,000 for FY26. It's $7,000 for the software and a one-time $3,000 implementation fee. It would be $8,900 for year 2 and $9,300 for year 3. It will take about 3 to 4 months to design and implement before residents are able to use it. And it will, once up and running, allow folks to really actually do full online permitting for businesses and developments. And as I mentioned, the fire department's looking to adjust their fees to be in line with area communities to help cover the cost of the software. As I mentioned at the last meeting, the first year is going to be a split between some funding that we had in data systems, but we were able to use the $25,000 state earmark to buy computers. It's going to be tight, but I think we're going to be okay there with the assumption we don't have to replace computers this year since we just did 15 new ones of the oldest match. And then fire is going to be putting in 5,000 as well. So they will be bringing back a recommended fee schedule in the upcoming months. We also did have, as Paul mentioned earlier, a town center improvement project meeting with key department heads, board and chairs at the board and committee chairs at the request of the engineering firm. They had some initial engineering questions about the project. They wanted to get town official input on. We will next be holding a stakeholders meeting with all of the directly impacted businesses, residents, 19 Carter, library, etc. And we will be eventually developing the concepts that come out of that stakeholders meeting into a public forum where everybody can come and provide their input. So we're not even at the conceptual design plan phase yet. This was really just, did public safety have specific concerns? Did Board of Health, did historical, etc. I have been able to complete the contract for the Historical Commission with the consultant who's doing the clothing accessioning. And that work is being funded through CPA. And Ms. Bassett, who is the consultant, began working last week. I'm also pleased to report that the final hazard mitigation plan that the board reviewed several months ago, then we had a public comment period and incorporated some small minor changes, was sent to FEMA. We are required to update this plan every 5 years to maintain eligibility for FEMA funding and to be prepared to address potential disasters. So this work was actually funded using a $30,000 state grant and done by Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, but there was a lot of work from town officials, especially police, fire, highway. So many thanks to everybody who worked on this. We started back last fall, so it was a lengthy process. We are finally underway with the BMS control upgrade at the municipal offices. That was funded through the 2024 Green Communities Grant. Guardian Energy was on site last week, and they were also on site today. They are working to address some of the HVAC issues in the town building. We also received a $50,000 state grant for CMRPC to undertake a zoning bylaw and subdivision regulation update. The planning board working with CMRPC applied for this. I think it's a great opportunity. It dovetails with the zoning diagnostic that CMRPC just completed using the local DLTA funding. And the CMRPC will be putting in another $900 towards this, which we pay about $1,000 a year. So we're pretty much already off of just this, getting our money back to CMRPC. And then they will be allocating the planning board some funding from their master plan update funds that have been allocated at prior town meetings. So they've done some significant updates to the master plan, as you saw, the housing production plan, village center plan. So the goal of this is to make the appropriate regulatory changes that will enable those studies to not just sit on a shelf and be studies, but actually be implemented. Also updating anything that is in conflict with state regulations. The Berlin, just for interest, I learned that Berlin first adopted zoning bylaws in 1958. And a full comprehensive zoning bylaw has not been done since 1997. We have been doing piecemeal updates. So it's a great time to go ahead and do it now. And I think the planning board is excited to get going. So looking forward to having some of the outcomes of this come forward to future town meetings. Also working with the rec committee on procurement for the South Commons Field renovation project. We have determined we can split it into phases. In the first phase, we'll be drilling the well and associated electrical work for the irrigation and the shed to house all of the controls and electrical. This is a $300,000 project that's funded through CPA funds for open space preservation. Also we've been awarded an energy manager in addition to our energy fellow. The energy manager will be working with our fellow to help in our energy efficiency and building decarbonization projects. So this will be a high-level consultant that specializes in this type of work, and they'll be able to help direct and guide along with the Energy Committee some of the projects that we are working on, including trying to help the town become a climate leader community, which is a goal of the Energy Committee. Also, at the request of the board, I met with school administration to discuss the possibility of holding future town meetings in the Tohoto Auditorium. The auditorium itself can hold 450 voters, and there is available overflow space with the appropriate technology in the cafeteria and multipurpose room. It would save on setup and breakdown costs, but it would also require an amendment to the town's general bylaws to change the date of annual town meeting, which is currently the first Monday of every May, because this is Boylston's town meeting date and they use the auditorium. So I have to say school administration was delighted to have perhaps different town meeting days for Berlin and Boylston. That would make their lives a lot easier. And they also mentioned the efficiencies of not having to fully set up a gymnasium full of chairs and tables, but to have a ready-made space with the technology and sound system and everything that works, and how beneficial that would be. Also working on the demolition of the old fire station rescue buildings. We had a contractor come out and visit last week. I should have a quote by the end of this week. And our building maintenance operator was in there looking at some things that are still dangling. And so I'm working to make sure that we get those remaining pieces out of there. And once I have a quote, I'll know if we can do quotes or if we have to do a formal bid process. And that's it.
So speaking of dangling things in the buildings, the knot, when's it moving? Not the one that's on the lawn, but there's actually still one in the old fire
Is this this is not the one that's on
the lawn.
the
No.
auction?
No, it's a different one. So when did, yeah, it is older. So when is that one coming out? And I'm assuming also going to sit on the lawn.
Let me find out.
Because I mean, this project has been kicked around long enough. I'd like for it to giddy up and go and get those buildings down and get whatever loam and grass seed are going down there or plants ready to go.
I do find it interesting the online discussions that talk about how like why we're not renovating it and building a museum and other stuff. And it's constantly amazing the number of people who complain about how high taxes are and then think that, you know, we're going to just raise taxes to run museums and renovate trucks. I mean, I'd love it. And nothing would make me happier if at the current online auction for the 1946, 47 truck was won by a neighborhood a town resident who spent time lovingly restoring it and displaying it at a town event. That would nothing would make me happier. But again, I don't think it's the role of town government to do that. And I don't think we have the money for it. We cut pretty substantial things from the budget to just keep the tax increase as low as it was. And online people are constantly advocating for more government.
And I'm just amazed at the interest of, well, why are you doing this? I'm thinking, well, where have you been as that thing has been sitting and rotting and rusting?
I
for
think
the
they've been
past
trying for
20
20
years.
Yeah, 20 years plus trying to get.
I like to see things go to people who can care for them and, I don't like to see things sit and rot. I don't think it's.
Well, you know what, I mean,
Sad.
this might be a nice, you know, both those trucks might be a nice opportunity for someone who has the history to build a little storyboard and stick it up somewhere down in fire. So if people want to know the history of the fire engine that blah, 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 blah. Here's some pictures of parades. I mean,
Website.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's on the website.
yep.
On a different topic, I'm trying to do the math. And so if the permitting software is 7,000 a year and it's our 5% increase per year, if you add 5% to 7,000, I don't get to 89,1225.
No, that's on the building side, that it's 5% per
different
year. There's
modules.
two
Right.
modules. So the fire module is the one that's 7.
The sentence then just doesn't
Oh.
make sense to me then. The cost of adding the fire permitting software is $7,000 for the software and 89,25 for year 2.
The next
That's
year,
not 5%.
but that's not, So that's just talking about the fire module. So the first year it's 7,000, then it goes up to 89.25. And the,
So they're only doing the
She
building
also-
side by 5%, but they're soaking us for 20%. on
We
the
got
fire
them
permitting side?
down low on the first year because we had the implementation fee and we basically worked them down from 10,000 plus 3,500 down to 7,000 plus 3,000. And the idea
all
would
of
be
this
that
software is crazy obscene because it's so specialized. But it's also, we can't continue
not
to
do it.
do
Yeah,
things the
right.
way we
Yeah,
are, so.
I get it, we can't do things
Yeah.
where we are.
But there are no options. I looked when I was in the clerk's office because the dog license thing drove me mad.
Yep.
And there just are no good options.
Yeah.
Especially if you're already in bed with somebody, because then when you go
Yeah.
somewhere else, you're paying.
At work, we have an electronic health record that days we love and hate, but the cost of going to a different electronic health record once you're in it is
It's
obscene.
crazy.
And disruptive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I get that sort of part. I'll just then live with, my brain doesn't follow that paragraph, but if it makes sense to you, I trust. Sorry, other questions?
I have other questions, but they're not related to the TA report, so I'll get them at the end when it comes to questions.
Are we interviewing yet for the energy manager, or is that not started yet?
they were working to post the ad in Combis and I did not get confirmation. It's being done through Montechusett, planning, Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. So they are actually managing this. I will find out if he's posted it. I know last week they said it was going to be posted shortly.
And then I was just wondering how the auction was going for the fire truck.
It was 1,900 last time I saw it.
Yeah,
but That
so
was
where
like
I
a
was.
week ago.
How long does it go?
I thought it had another couple of
20,
weeks,
yeah,
like, it had
20
like
some odd days.
20 more days
Yeah.
on it. So that was like almost mid to late August before the auction was itself done.
Mhm.
I will find out and I will get you that info. I think I have the link somewhere to it in here. Oh, here we
No,
go.
if
Yeah.
you hold a sec, I can find
Oh,
it on,
Got
on
it.
Facebook.
It is currently at 1,900
Yeah.
and it closes on August 6th.
Yeah, 1947, that's the mustard truck.
So if people in town are really interested in it, there's several more weeks to
Mhm.
get a good bid in and be the owner of a part of town history.
And I'm sure this is a question for Chief, but where it's at Fire Mike, where it says auction reserve not met. If it's not met, is he still gonna sell it for whatever, or is he gonna sit on it?
They can take off the reserve. We have the option of waiving it and going with the highest bid, even if the reserve is not met.
Yeah.
So
And we'll
I know
have that
Scott
obviously
had raised
conversation.
that question as well.
Okay, all right, curious, thanks.
The various energy people we have, would it be appropriate to have any of them look at streetlights in town and whether or not some of them are needed, not needed, can be more energy efficient?
I can certainly reach out to Tim and have a
Just
conversation with
struggle
him.
sometimes about like what the process would be to have some of them potentially go away if they're not really needed or used.
They are all LED and they do have special things on them, dimulators.
Right, that only
Things
go on
cause
when
them
it's
to-
dark
yeah.
enough, yeah. I was gonna say, I've been looking around, I've not seen any that belong to the town that didn't look like they weren't LEDs, so they're
Yeah.
not doing much.
Oh, we drove the street too,
yeah,
and I drove the streets to find
Yeah.
said street
Said
lights.
Said 99 streetlights, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Do no other questions?
Mhm.
We can go on to the consent agenda. And so we have what, A through F on the consent. So I'll read them for the people who don't have agendas in front of them, which is of course not the two of you, but people at home. Notice to intent to appoint a part-time conservation area, Julia Danielson. Consideration of change of master application of the all alcohol license to Sadie Machado at Regal Theater. The consideration of a one-day pour permit at Solomon Pond Mall on August 16th, though to go with the event that we just approved. Consideration of an application by Mark Walter for the American Cancer Society for the Bicycles Battling Cancer fundraiser through Berlin. Doesn't say the date on the agenda item, at least.
Well,
Consideration of application for one-day pour permit for Lost Shoe Brewing at Sullivan Pond also on the 16th. And then the town administrator goals, which you folks talked about last week, and I have reviewed and didn't see a need to necessarily sort of debate them on the second. I didn't have changes to make.
Sunday, September 21st on the bicycles battling cancer
Yep.
from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
So that is our consent agenda for tonight.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, adding the date to the bicycles battling cancer.
I will second, but I also have a question
Sure.
or a comment.
Yep.
Can we please be sure that the American Cancer Society, who puts up lovingly the BBC signs throughout town to make sure the bikes know where they go, to please come back and take them down?
I'll make sure to let them know.
Because you'll find a yellow BBC arrow
Okay.
throughout the town. So if they could, and this is our second ask, they did it last year, we had to ask them to come back and take them down, so if they could come back and last person through, rip them down as you go by, that would be lovely.
Maybe not the last bicycle, but as they clean up after the route.
Absolutely, bring the truck through,
That's your penalty for being last in the race. You have to stop at every pole and take down.
take
the
them down.
signs.
Other than that, I'm good, thanks.
All in favor of the consent items, say aye.
Aye.
Other business.
There was.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
There was a motion, a second, yep. Designate BMS Gym as a polling location starting in September of 2026.
Would you like to take this one, Lisa?
So I had requested permission for us to go and talk to them about this. While it was not unanimous, overall, everyone was very enthusiastic about everything. We decided that it would make the most sense to, because of their calendar setting, to look at this starting at the state primary. That's also a small election, so we could have an election that was not enormous to start with, but their facilities were enthusiastic overall. Like I said, everybody was ready to work together and make this happen. It is a much, much better space. The state also came out and did their ADA assessment, and we passed with flying colors, which is not surprising since it is a school. So yeah, public safety is in favor. The schools are excited. They talked about maybe doing bake sales and doing the things that you see at elections at other places to make it more of an event. Yeah.
And they have more than enough notice to shift a day too, to do a
Yeah,
professional development. day.
We had talked about doing that. That's why we pushed it out so far, was so that they can mainly be professional development days. He did say that he did this at his past school, so he's been through it. That they did revert that policy back for the smaller elections, which I think is probably what would happen, because we also can't tell them the exact date for that primary yet, because that primary doesn't get set until like February is the drop dead date according to Mass General Law. So it makes it hard to, we have a kind of, it's one of these two dates, but I think over time it will just be the state primary, and the municipal election will not require necessarily the school to be closed, but like presidentials and governors and those types of things will. But we'll see how people are feeling after the first ones.
Yeah, one of the things you might want to keep in mind with that, I think, what is it, August, Kristen, that we'll find out about the ADA grants? Ish.
So.
So I did put in for the ADA polling ones. Hopefully that will go through, knock
Yeah.
wood. If not, then we'll probably have to resurface that discussion about purchasing them. But again, we've got a boatload of time. But if we could just plop it on a calendar just in case.
Yeah, and the other thing about it, like right now, we have the auto mark is shoved in that corner. If anybody ever wanted to use it, you couldn't get a wheelchair back there. You couldn't do it appropriately. So while it's there,
Okay.
I think overall this is just far superior.
Yeah, and giving them 14 months advance notice gives plenty of
Yeah.
time to.
And I don't know if you saw, was that the MOU in there that I started, or?
Yes.
So I did start putting that together. The superintendent recommended that we did do an MOU. So there were just a couple of things. I did talk to James about timing, and we would want to like extend out that timing for longer, and I just haven't adjusted that yet. So there were 2 little spots in there, but overall, that would be sort of what we would be looking at, I think.
And again, we have enough time to get plenty of notification out.
Yeah.
We'll post a big sign down here.
Yeah.
This way.
Yeah.
We might put blinking sign, we might put blinking sign in the parking lot saying elections on. Right, elections now like EMS.
If you came here,
Right,
it's not like you're going.
right. It's not like you're going to the other side of town.
So,
It's
But
just
yeah,
up the road. So yeah, it's.
we just keep talking about it and we put it in the powder house, and we
Yeah.
put it in the paper and all the places.
Do all that,
So-
and someone on the day will complain they never heard about it, we never talked about it, no one's ever known.
Yeah.
Do you want to make the motion?
Motion to move the polling place to BMS Gym starting in September of 2026.
And seconded?
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for all the work you put
It
in on
is.
it. Appreciate it.
Yes. One of the things that sometimes feels earth shattering at the end of the day, 5 years from now, people are like, of course, this is always, why wouldn't I
Right.
have it?
Yeah, it actually used to be, I don't know if y'all knew, but it used to be at the gym.
It did?
Yeah. It used to be there.
Oh, wow.
It's been a while, but
Yeah.
probably in the 90s even.
Next item is coming up with some of the questions we want to ask the assessors about the tax rate. So really every year when we get to our
Mhm.
September or October meeting about the tax rate, we have 4 questions that we have to answer, that we always answer the same answer. And because really at that meeting, if we make any adjustments to anything, it requires these spreadsheets that
Correct.
the assessor's office has painfully put together that we do our decisions on to all be redone, which really expecting to do that on the fly is unfortunate and bad practice. And so I was thoughting away from that particular meeting to have them come and have those conversations about uniform versus split tax rate, open space discounts, the residential exemptions, the small commercial exemptions are the 4 sort of policies we have to vote on. But then are there other questions we want to having about that? And now I think we're just Chris to put down the question to get over to the assessors. Hopefully I'm not expecting us to do a lot of debating of our feelings on some of those things at the moment or our opinions on them, but.
I
Right.
went down a massive rabbit hole on ChatGPT today
Oh,
on
no.
tax rates. It was too much fun. Because I didn't have this the first
Right.
time I went through it, so. The first thing just was, one of the things that Molly used to do that I really liked was and it did come up on ChatGPT too, was a typical single family residential property, the projected bill for that on the average,
Mhm.
showing what the commercial and when you do the split. That was super helpful when Molly did that.
So for commercial and residential?
Yeah,
so-
just so you can see, like, for the average home, when you
Right.
do those splits, how much things go
Because if
up.
we sit here and go like 42% versus 44 for 45%, that to the average person,
That's
that
really big.
it glazes over eyes. But if there's a chart that said the average home in Berlin is 670,000, then a 42% offset is this, and a 45% offset is that, and a 10% offset is this. And including because of it comes up every now, whether or not we should get rid of the split tax rate. What does that look like if we don't have a tax rate split? Because I think one of my discussions, I think, is I want to put to bed the rest of whether or not we should continue to have a split rate or not. Opinion on that, but I think we should at least have that discussion.
Well, and I think this was more, they've agreed to come on August 18th
Right.
and said, hey, can you send us any
Yeah, oh yeah, no,
questions you
I-
have? So if you'd like, if you want to send them to me individually, and I'll compile them into a list and get them over to the assessors, that would be.
I was hoping a little bit of synergy of like, if we share some of our lists that one, it would save me from having to put it down, but it might trigger something else. Because I think the other thing is for me is the open space discount that people, of course, because we
Actually, all
give
3 of those.
discounts, yeah, for open space and chapter land. And yes, it would lower the cost rate of individual homeowners, but it would probably there would not be an incentive anymore for farmland to stay as farmland, which could, also have negative impacts on the town. And then I'm always looking for ways, and under the residential exemption are there ways to make the tax rate more progressive? does the state, I did use ChatGPT, but is there ways for us to say like the first 200,000 of every property isn't taxed and we tax the rate on everything above that
Well,
so that expensive properties pay more?
the
Because the rate would
residential,
have to go up.
the residential exemption
does that.
actually does that.
Yep. Which we've always said no, because.
We
it
don't
wasn't
do
a pet
that, but
pet,
we do the other one, which was confusing, but
Right.
really very few communities, it turns out, do either one of those.
Right,
And I'd be curious as to why that is, though, personally, there is a lot of overhead
Right.
here just by doing it. But yeah, I was curious as to why we adopted one and keep doing the one over and over again and then didn't adopt the other.
right, and if I remember correctly, the arguments are the residential would just affect almost everybody. Because, which I don't think is true anymore. And the small commercial one doesn't affect too many people, but helps small businesses in town. But again, I'd love to know the
Yeah.
numbers, like how many property, because again, off the top of their head during rate setting, they can't tell me, and if we changed our mind from yes to no, that would change some of the calculations on the sheets, and so.
I think it's 25, small for the small
Yeah,
businesses. It's
a
really
couple dozen, it was above the
small.
number, yeah.
And the thing that I found out about that too is that's not actually the business per se, it's the landlord.
Right.
So you're not necessarily, I mean, it could be passed down to the business, but that's not a given. So
No, but you could make clear that the landlord's paying more in taxes, they're gonna make that up by charging more in rent, but you're right. It is
Yeah,
the landlord.
there is, yeah,
Yep.
there's not necessarily, it's not like a, and we have so few that,
Kind of, for me, the major question that came to my head was, how do the assessors determine a fair market value of a property? Because you all often hear, I didn't do my house is $100. I didn't do a thing to my house. Now, all of a sudden, my tax bill is $150. And the discussion of, oh, but Scott moved in and he put in a $200 house and
Right.
Lisa put in a $225 house. I don't care what
Right.
they put in.
Right.
So because they're fancy and I'm not fancy, why does my bill go?
I think we're about to go into a revaluation year. I think a
Mhm.
full presentation of revaluation is and isn't. Although we don't have, because the assessor's office is an independent body and independently
Mhm.
elected. But a chance at a bigger forum to start talking about what revaluation is and is not. You get the, like, I don't want them on my property sort of stuff and the
Mhm.
pros and cons, because some people, well, I don't want the assessor in my office, they'll never know I renovated my kitchen, but actually they might, because you build building permits on it, and if they don't show the kitchen, then you really didn't do as much as they thought. They could decide you have $1 million kitchen because you didn't get to show them that it really only was a $200 kitchen improvement, you added a new microwave.
Mhm.
yeah, so in that sort of vein, what portion of the residential growth is driven by new construction versus revaluation? That's kind of a good question.
Yeah.
I would like to see too, how we compare with other towns that are near us. I mean, you can go online and look
Right.
for them. Anybody can, but it would be nice to say Berlin is at, and our neighbor who is compatible to us is at, that might help some people, because
Mhm.
that's generally a question that
Okay.
I
So
get, so.
be careful with
know,
Marlboro,
that's right.
because they added stabilization money
I know.
to take off their taxes, which makes it look like crazy
Well-
lower, and it's
Well,
really.
and that's just it. It's like a lot of these may have to have an asterisk with an explanation, but it would
Yeah.
be nice, and I don't.
But
want
we have some,
I don't want the comparison of Berlin is at $2 for a tax rate and it's equal to Shelburne.
Right.
That's great. I don't live in Shelburne,
Correct.
so talk to me
Yeah.
around.
if we did do something like the residential exemption, I'd be interested to know how many people that might apply to
Right.
and how much sort of extra onus that would put on the assessor's office.
I think for all four of the questions we answer, how many properties are affected by the yes versus no? Uniform tax split is maybe not the right one. The other three, like, how many open space parcels are impacted? How many residential would be impacted? And we know the small business because we say yes, and we're told it's about a couple dozen, but the other two, I don't have a sense.
Mhm.
Bigger than a bread box, smaller than a bread box.
So how many
Yep.
parcels are actually impacted
Yep.
by each of the 3 exemptions.
Yep. And for taxpayers watching this after and watching this meeting after and that meeting after is that, I mean, at the end of the day, if the budget passes and we need $10 million to fund things, you know, these will change who pays what part of that $10 million, but it's still $10 million that needs to be raised. And so, you know, if we change the policies and your tax bill goes down by 50, then someone else's tax is gonna go up by 50.
Which-
And it's trying to find a fair way of doing it, because with every tax policy, there's winners and losers. And with every tax policy, it is, what are we trying to drive for the town? You know,
Right, which is exactly what my next question was what have they seen in terms of increases or decreases in the number of abatements, and how does that impact the overall rate? So yeah, exactly, if mine goes down $5.
Right.
And they still need that money.
right?
Thank you, you
Well,
know, so.
And that's what we have been seeing, is that the Solomon Pond Mall is not as valuable as a property used to be, because it's not as valuable, they're paying less.
Right,
But our costs haven't gone down because of that, and so someone has to pay it, and that someone, sadly, is a little bit of everybody.
Yeah, and it seems like there's sort of a bigger push and
Right.
pull between sort of folks who have, you know, $1 million homes and folks who
Yeah.
are living on fixed incomes,
Right.
and, you know, maybe that residential thing is something to
Mhm.
Yeah.
look at, just to help with that pull, because you have a
Right.
whole segment who's like, I will pay whatever you want me to pay for the schools, and you have another one over here who's saying,
can only
I
pay
can't, I
$12.
can't,
Yeah.
I can't do food if
No.
you do that.
And we have modest homes in the town that have been in families for a long period of
Mhm.
time. And we have people building multi-million-dollar buildings in this town who, you know, another $500 on their tax bill, they might not notice.
So that's something that might be
Yeah.
interesting to look at.
And I am fine with the assessors even like coming to us with what they're seeing as other towns struggling on
Mhm.
tax policies, what directions would they like to hear from us on? There could be things that like, boy, they wish the select board would have a policy on X or Y, so that would help make our tax rating higher or make our authority better or worse, or I think the goal of this is to make sure that our tax rate setting meeting is
Mhm.
easier to do, and we're not at the point where, boy, I wish I could change that policy, but that would mean the bill goes out a month late, and we all know how that
Yeah.
feels well in town.
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that, right?
Let's not.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
don't worry.
I mean, another question that I had was the whole information that's available on VIS when you look at the cards. You know, under assessment, it talks about improvements, so almost kind of getting back to I put in a new kitchen, but I'm not telling you I put in a new kitchen, but I have an improvement, so how is that impacting? Because there were a couple of things that were funky on mine, and I went, I didn't do that.
Right.
You know, so how up to date is
Mhm.
that? And are they relying just on that for information?
Well, in theory, that's what revaluation is for, is to actually go and visit every property.
Yeah.
I know they visit all the open space properties, because I've been visited every year since I bought a property that is
Open space?
qualifies, yeah.
Mhm.
Good, and then we can get lists for more
Yep.
over to, I'd try to get it this week, so they have time.
Yeah, if you get it over to me, then I can get it to the assessors by end of week.
Yep.
Great.
Regional agreement, speaking of fun conversations like we have out there, but these are good conversations. I mean, this is how you improve things, is you go after some of the messier stuff. And I think this is the same. I think sharing some of the things on our list and then sending the list over to you by the end of the week. I think saying it out loud, I will trigger something for me, I'm sure. My big one, and so I took notes during the budget stuff. I went to the school hearings, is the allocation of cost. I ask every year about, you know, that the costs that there's a Tohoto cost per pupil and a Berlin cost per pupil and a Boylston cost per pupil and a allocation of admin cost per pupil, and how to split the teachers who are split between the buildings, how to split transportation allocations, how to do some of the special ed. And I think if we decided we could get into it total bill divided by total students, one cost per pupil across, makes all of those questions simpler. You know, if we are 40 of the 100 students, then we pay 40% of the overall stuff, and that it doesn't end up with 3 or 4 budgets they have to figure out allocations around. And so just trying to
Yeah.
get clear in it how we allocate costs.
The schools wanted that too.
Yep, I think they wanted they wanted
Yeah, I
clarification
figured-
on some of those minor ones. And I'm like, how about just the bigger one? You just make it one.
I
divide
found
them.
2 methods, average of the town's total enrollment percentage over the 3 most recent fiscal years, or using the foundation enrollment data from Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which is a little less precise, but also simpler. So
Also
either of
fair,
those,
too, so,
yeah, either of those are viable.
For,
No, so under vacancies, which is D, it talks about if a vacancy occurs, the regional school committee will appoint a member to serve for the balance of the unexpired term. To me, that is specifically vague. I would like to know what the process is for that person.
I'll go one better. It needs to be the select board that does the appointing. We would not appoint one of
Friends.
we would not do that as a select board. We cannot do that. So it does not make sense to me that the school committee does that. The select board should be doing that from either town.
right, so
Okay.
how to fill vacancies.
I actually have an amendment showing that.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
And similarly, I think the school should have a recall provision in it.
Mhm.
We just added one for ourselves, we had
Mhm.
one for the town, I think once for the school, and it was pointed out when we added ours that it didn't impact the school because it's a regional agreement, which it shouldn't, the town,
If-
but
If we change
Yep.
the election, which is one of mine,
which is also one of mine.
if
too.
we change the method that we're using for that, to something that does municipal, which is option 1 of the 5,
Yep.
our recall policy comes into play, and
Okay.
we would not have to do that. If we
Okay.
stuck with the current methodology, then we would have to do it. Otherwise, we would not. So
Okay.
let's just make it the municipal
Yep.
election and choose option 1.
That sounds good to me, because election of school board was one of mine to go back to. It was pushed by the state. We didn't fight back as much. And I was part of some of the boards when that happened. It made some sense, but once we've done it once, and to see that in a presidential election year, there is no air in the room to talk about school board policies and school board candidates to stand up, school board candidates to, even the forums they did, because you're overwhelmed by everything else going on.
Yep.
That's
Does
why I
not
think it should be
make
back to
sense.
municipal stuff as well. And I think you go back to then the 3-year terms, one up every year, just like select board is now, and then we'll change when we go to 5, but.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that was the other thing, was if you do that, then you can do the 3-year terms,
Yep.
rather than nobody but the governor has a 4-year term. So it's kind of psycho that the school committee has a 4-year term.
Don't they have a longer one?
No, they're 4
No,
years.
it's
Okay.
4.
And then obviously I would love us to talk about the date the budget is due,
Mhm.
Yep.
since it's due the day 2 days before we're supposed to have the budget to the printer, and that seems
Mhm.
ridiculous in inability. I was gonna say.
You could just-
So, yours are nice and bolded. I could see bold print there, but
I write mine down, so I don't cheat off the both of you, so there you go.
the other
Mhm.
things I had was just clarity on the goal use of END. I don't really have an opinion on that. I just know that when they're presenting the budget, the finance director said there really is no clarity on policy of what how much we're supposed to have, how it gets allocated, what's the right way of allocating END. I don't think I would want in a regional agreement to be overly prescriptive, but I bet there could be some guidance, and I'd almost even look to the schools on what guidance would they like on that.
Like how we have our free cash.
Yeah, like a
policy.
free cash policy, or how much, because it was during the budget cycle, like, oh, Boylston got 150,000, or Berlin only got 100,000. Because they're allowed to do whatever they want, and I want them to have some flexibility, but I would love them to be able to point to a policy when someone starts complaining, even if the complaint might come from me. And then I'd love to see a little bit more on clarity on capital costs. Because there's that $5,000 number, which seems weird,
Just write
because
that down.
even if it's more than $5,000, the 5,000 or even more is coming from the town of Berlin anyway.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we're looking for the school out of their operating budget to spend things, unless that's the clarity, is that if it's a fix under 5,000, it's supposed to come from their operating. Otherwise, it's supposed to be a warrant article.
And then the last one I think I had was a periodic review clause. So add in a clause requiring formal review of the regional agreement every 5 years to ensure it remains current within district needs and legal standards. That doesn't mean that it needs to be opened or changed every
Right.
year. but or every 5 years, but it needs to have a set time where we look at it
Mm.
after we've lived with it.
That makes sense, because it also allows us to open it up and not make them feel defensive, like we're opening it because we have a fight. We're not opening because we have it because it's 5 years and we should look at it, you know?
Yeah.
I think we're opening it now because all three parties are realized after several years of this that it's just not working right for anybody. Yeah, there are pieces that are not working right for everybody. And how do we-
Agreed.
And Desi told us.
And Desi told us.
Well, and I was like,
And Desi.
and I would like to see the transportation section expanded a little bit, because there was talk last year about, oh, what other alternate items can you find to help us store the buses? And then it just like kind of went away to help reduce costs. So I truly like a breakdown of how much is the bus, where are they storing it? How much does it cost to store it? What have they looked at for alternate
In a regional
spots?
agreement?
Well, you've got I know, see, and that's the problem, is that it talks about that it shall be provided, but where transportation went up everywhere this year, I would like a little bit better understanding of, instead of it went up 50%, tell me why it went up 50%. So, and again, I don't know if a lot of these, even nitpicky like landscaping, that we're gonna pay for landscaping. Can somebody please define landscaping? Because a pot and a flower in a pot to me is landscaping. Hedges with topiaries and blah, blah, blah might be Lisa's definition of landscaping. So probably not, but you know, just saying. It's just some of those that I don't want to be hit with the bill of, well, you said you pay for landscaping, you know, type of thing.
Makes sense.
And then, so all the parties are willing to start meeting, but we don't have yet from Desi or others sort of what the membership of the committee to be, to start appointing people to a committee to start looking at the agreement.
No, when I reached out to Al, his recommendation was to start with the to at least have an initial meeting with the Boylston TA, the Berlin TA, and himself to figure out where we go from there.
Okay.
So that's the initial meeting we're having, and then I'm not exactly sure who should be on it. We didn't really get
Yep.
that guidance from Desi. But we can work on determining that.
And the other thing I would note too is, based on my research, that if we do the option one, there is a mention of apportioning, the seats. But because our, populations are so close together, in general, that is not an issue. We could keep it exactly the way that it is.
Yeah, I think 3 and 3 is.
I'm
Yep.
concerned because of the way that's written, that somebody might say, oh, but then we would have to apportion
Right.
those seats, and no, you do not.
Good.
I mean, I will say Aaron did a good job last year. As I was scrolling through this, I started to chuckle when he was, and I remember him distinctly sitting there going, well, if you go to the last page of the agreement and it talks about the BMRE, which is the BORE plus the BMRE plus the
Right.
BBRE.
Allocation
I'm
stuff.
like,
Yeah.
Oh,
That's not,
yeah, so I mean, he
not-
did a great job at that and
Yep.
would love to see more of that. But again, I know that
Well,
that's more of a budget.
I
when
think
they
it's more
come.
simplifying all
Yes.
those things. That's why
Yeah.
I'd go back to just per pupil.
Yeah.
Across all 3 schools.
Yep.
And Desi did recommend in that letter that the formula be simplified. So I think that's gonna be a main
Mhm.
objective, because Desi ultimately has to sign off on
Yep.
this, so.
Good. And again, get any lists or any additions to
Mhm.
Kristen by Friday, and your meeting with them is set for,
It's early August.
so if we got it to you by this Friday, you'll be able to get it. I have no.
Yeah.
We can share this is a public meeting anyway, but when you get that list over, you can send it
Whiz it
whenever,
around.
so that the other town can see it.
Yep.
As soon as they want to see it.
August 13th.
Yep.
Mid-August.
I did have concerns at one point when I did this agenda about how weighty a bunch of these things are back to back, and we did remove even a few things.
We gave a bunch of you back last week. Lisa and I were like, nope, not everything. Scott, wait for Scott. So
Old Highway Barn. It's discussion, this is, as we go down the facility study of what we want to be doing and not doing with buildings, this sort of appeared list so that study and the stuff we've learned from it doesn't get lost. we've had some preliminary stuff before you were on the select board, Lisa, about
Mhm.
this. Kristen, you added to our packet that there is a right of first refusal if you decide to sell it, that the neighbor has at least a
Mhm.
right to do that on it. The building currently does not have water or sewer because it was a shared water or sewer because we've not used it, that is no longer shared. So there's not water and sewer to the building that is there now.
Is it possible to get water on there, or is that not a possibility? I'm just curious from a, do we even know? You would have to do a Title V?
Yeah, we
And do
did
the-
Title
yeah.
V or like even
Okay.
key tests to
Yeah.
see if the land could do something. It's not a very large lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My preference in looking at, because I don't have it, I'm sure it's in the folder too. It's going to need repairs. It doesn't have water and sewer.
I
To me,
don't.
this
repair it.
goes back to, I personally think the building gets torn down, so it's one less building you have to pay maintenance on. And I personally think because of its location, it makes a great parking area for people who will use the rail trail, which will eventually get built. And doesn't have to, if the rail trail ends up not being built, we could still sell it because it would be a nice just plot of land, and a neighbor who has right of first refusal might at some point be someone we sell it to.
I was also intrigued by that idea.
Hmm. I thought that the residents sent over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did share that with conservation as well.
Mhm.
Carolyn thought it was a good idea. I talked to her.
As a parking area for rail trail, yeah. At least for now. We'd have to go to, if we wanted to tear it down, we'd probably have to go through capital planning and find money and have an article at fall town meeting to, like we've done for the two other buildings. As we continue my rampage through town and tearing down old buildings. It is
That is
probably,
the ugliest building.
yeah,
So
it is,
Please.
it is
please
more than
get
50
rid of
years
it, yeah.
old, so we'll have to go through historic as well.
You would be
which
surprised though what people will buy.
Yes.
So I would kind of recommend exploring whether it could be turned into a parking lot before putting money into demo and then finding out that maybe it's not the best use, because I would think selling it as is,
Mhm.
you're not putting money into it and you're gonna at least get something
Correct.
back.
Well, that's, yeah, I guess.
I mean, not that it
Look at-
isn't,
yeah.
I think it's a great idea too, but if for some reason that doesn't seem to fly.
So should we do that first?
Yeah.
Let's just sell it. Yep.
Well,
Well-
just, yeah, just see whether it would even be feasible as a parking lot, whether that's even possible.
Right. So I think some, and we're talking,
How do we do that?
I was gonna say, how do we then figure out its feasibility as a parking spot?
Look at the square space and then figure out, kind of like what they're doing on Lyman now, how many cars can you fit?
Yeah,
in there.
zoning, I would wanna talk to Rich and planning, just to
Yeah.
check on
Yeah.
the zoning and see,
So-
and conservation.
I think if you
obviously.
did a couple of emails along those lines, I think you could, I don't think we're going to an architect to get drawings.
No.
None of us are asking for that. I think we could, the parking spots have relatively known dimensions to them, and you could say,
Mhm.
yeah, I think we could get some cars there. We did get an email from a resident who went further than just parking and thought, during seasons, porta-john and
Yeah.
water. Of course, having a
Mhm.
faucet there, even for quick water, would require water, which we know the site doesn't have right now, but.
Yeah.
And then, if we're looking at its feasibility, what's the best way is there a simple way to figure out what it might go for if we sold it?
I mean,
Is there a commercial real estate agent who could say, I think that's 5,000. I think no one will ever have interest. I think you get $1 million for it.
Usually, I'm familiar with using like a municipal auctioneer. You can put a minimum on things, but in terms of getting an estimated price, I do know I can reach out and see if he might be willing to give us a ballpark.
I'm not like, I can't, again, is it not possible, 50,000, 500,000, 2 million,
Or if he looks around and looks at the facility study and says, yeah, you can sell it for $10 because somebody's gonna need to invest
Yep.
855 bazillion.
Right.
Okay, then there's your answer.
Yep.
Down it comes.
So I
Yeah.
think we're then,
Mhm.
the three of us then agreeing that you'll do a little exploration on feasibility as a parking lot, a little bit on its potential net worth. And then come back to us for then a formal vote on do we want, since we're directing the town administrator to do something, should we do a formal vote that is the three of
Yeah,
us then
formalize.
directing her to
Yep.
do those two things?
Can I add one more
Yep,
piece to your vote? I
yep.
would also like to just informally reach out to historical, like we did with the Brown Barn.
Yep.
And I know that they have to take a formal vote, but I could get a sense of if this is a building that
Yep.
they have particular concerns about.
The neighbor, do we have a sense of how much they'd be, what ballpark they might be willing to put it? Probably not. They probably, whoever mentions the number first negotiation always loses anyway, so maybe they might not want to,
Well,
but.
that I'd have to research, but typically right of first refusal, how it works is you get the opportunity to match the high bid.
But like, if we think it's worth, let's say, 50,000, then we're interested in selling it, which we might not be, to say, hey, instead of right of first refusal, do you want to just buy it from us? We might not do, you're right, there's legal things.
I was gonna say, I think we have to get an
Can't do
appraisal
nice
by
things.
law.
Can't do nice things. That's
No,
why
I
we can't
know.
have nice things. Yep.
And also, no, don't forget, before we sell it, it has to go to town meeting for
Yeah, disposal. Yep,
disposition
yep,
and all of that,
yep.
so.
Is there a motion to ask Kristen to explore those things?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Select board liaison positions.
I gave a little bit of an explanation last time because what I did was I left some names on here. I left you, Peg and
Yep.
Scott in the roles that you were in last year. Obviously, that can certainly change, but just for simplicity's sake, I carried it over.
You just want
Yeah.
to whiz down the list.
I did add the elected boards, which I know is up for discussion, but.
Right. The Ag Commission is listed under both, huh? About 26 representatives, right? I am still fine with personally ag and historic, even though I've not done great jobs with either one of those. I was wondering, Lisa, do you have any sort of favorites before they all get divvied out?
I currently have housing.
Right.
and I've been doing the election stuff. I somehow lost the drive that this is on, so I can't get the document up.
Yeah,
Oh, you got, can I see?
yeah.
Okay, so,
I could probably.
You want them all? What?
no,
Sorry.
I really don't. I think my first question was, are there things that are driving you two
Well-
crazy that I can take some of the pressure off? That was my first thing. If not, I will, I know that there's been a lot of drama around COAs, so I'm happy to take that if you want me to take COA.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so why don't you give me COA?
And we don't have to all, because you've added like the Board of Assessors, which is again, and Board of Health, which are
Elected.
elected and independent bodies. And so although it's neat to know what's going on, the select board has no sort of
Mhm.
say or control. And I don't want to even have the implication that we have say or control over
Mhm.
some of those things.
But that's not, I mean, I think for me, liaisons were always about improving communications. They
Mhm.
weren't
Yeah.
necessarily,
I think I do have rights to fix indentations. apparently.
so like whether there's a liaison or not, I see Carolyn regularly, so I will see
Right.
what's going on at planning. I
Mhm.
see,
Right.
you
And I
know,
do the same thing when I see her at
yeah,
Concom. What up?
so.
Yep.
I do, Tim Wheeler is great and about updating me about monthly, and I try to watch the meetings, but I can't always watch all of the planning meetings. I kind of view those as just informational, like, if you attended the meetings, you'd give an update at a select board meeting, so all four of us would be on the same page, just knowing what's going on, but not any type of jurisdiction or, oversight.
I mean, too, I'm happy to take planning.
Yeah.
But we need to fill the others too, so,
Um, since I asked 800 questions, I might take Board of Assessors just to understand better what they're doing and have more opinions about that sort of stuff.
she's really interested to
Yeah.
talk to too.
And I think I see cursors bouncing all over the screen.
You feeling
As you said, Chris, are you filling in on something else? Because we've taken
Yes,
some that I
I'm-
don't see.
I'm filling it because
Okay,
it's
good.
moving so much. I'm writing it down.
I'm totally fine. I was just trying to figure out which ones we don't have people on yet. No.
Oh, I can.
Peg, do you wanna swap anything out, or you wanna stay where you are, or?
I mean,
I think you wanted to keep energy and conservation. I think
I-
those are your happy place.
those
so
are
keep
my happy
those.
place, you know, and I think I've hoped to have built a rapport with rec to try and guide them through what they're
Right.
doing, so would kind of like to stay
Okay.
with them. I know that
As long as
Earthworks
they're not
does
gonna
make.
make you tear your hair out, that's.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Okay.
I tear my hair out, but you know what I mean, I tear my hair out anyway, so.
Okay.
I mean, Earthworks, obviously, they're gone, so they can whiz off the list.
Right there.
I think the ones that you attend, Kristen, we can take those off the list.
Yes. I see no need.
Right,
or
yeah.
Don't get
Double.
anything that you are going to
Right.
in that regard.
Right, so,
We got ZBA. I don't
yeah,
think has a
ZBA and,
home.
ZBA and Cultural Commission
Got two
and,
friends on ZBA too. I can probably do that also.
Sold. Okay.
I would-
Lone Star.
I informal things at least.
And then I think we
constantly.
might-
The gavel is way too far, or else it would have been a little bit louder.
it leaves sort of cultural as the one that's on, but they don't meet
Board of
super
Health.
often and, well,
Yeah.
Board of Health, again, an independent body.
Yeah.
That we don't, we can help with those pieces. Cultural Commission, we still appoint.
Mhm.
I would be reluctant to sit on since I made the motion to disband them,
You
and
could
make
push
it
Wait, Scott, for you to show up and say, convince me.
It was
Just
listed
saying.
as elective before, which I don't
I don't know why.
I
we
don't
would.
entirely what that means. I'm guessing it means anyone can attend if they would like.
Right,
But I'm thinking if we're like assigning
Yeah.
liaisons, it would make sense to give them one as well.
Let's see, well, they do meet. I mean, they met most
Yeah.
recently,
That
May
one-
15th.
That one
Yeah,
is
so
a
this-
happy one,
like
because they just give
every-
money
They
away
just-
to
There's
everybody.
not a lot of,
There's
good
not
policy.
not a lot of drama there.
I'll take that one.
See,
All right.
well
There you
done.
go. And I would, why don't you, I don't know if I was gonna say put housing trust on there just because we.
Yeah, housing
do-
trust should be on there because that's one's
It's a
formal.
Formal.
That's-
Well,
these
right,
are
there's
info.
always a select
Yeah.
board voted representative. That's the only
Yeah.
reason I didn't
It's,
put it on
it's
there.
more like it shows sort of where everybody's at.
Right, yeah.
Sort of thing. And I do think at least for now, I would like to see elections on there also, at
Yeah.
least until we get this all
Yeah.
sort of running smoothly
Yeah.
and.
Elections should be, you're right.
Oh,
we've
that's
also
really
done
good. Yeah, no, we're exactly on here. You?
Yeah,
That's
that's right.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
but
me.
also just, it's that like, we're a small town and this is what, 20 odd committees.
Yeah.
Some of which are
Yeah.
totally independent that meet on a pretty regular basis. And although there is some overlapping membership on some of these, it probably represents a good 100 people in town
Mhm.
volunteering on a monthly or so basis to keep these things running and not counting the people who volunteer to
Mhm.
backfill, because rec has a committee, but rec also has dozens of volunteers,
Correct.
same for council on aging. When one, I think it just shows how too big we are sometimes, but it's also like, we're a small town and a good 5% of town is active volunteers on something related to town government.
That'd be great. I mean, what about the insurance advisory committee? Are we kind of sort of done with that? I mean,
So they meet,
We still have to set the
yeah, like the unions each have a representative. They don't actually post their meetings. It's when we have like rate changes or plan design.
yeah.
They meet and give a recommendation to the select board.
Yeah.
So it could be when we have a year where there's a lot going on and maybe they want to add a deductible or to offset a big rate increase.
Right, and
that's
so I
what we
think when
need.
things are happening, we can appoint someone, but
Yeah.
because you're the main liaison, I think if you said, boy, they're meeting a bunch. And they'd like not to surprise the select board with a presentation and want to make sure they're on the right path.
we
You
could
both
possibly
between your
recall
TA
that.
report and a select board going to that, just
Somebody-
like the school
yeah.
board is not
That,
on
I
this.
guess, under
and-
the.
Because every now and then we need someone, we don't
Yeah,
always need
that's
someone.
select
Correct.
board.
Somebody needs Board of Health.
Insurance
I'm not
advisory.
doing that.
Yeah,
You cannot pay me enough. to
It's
do
a
it.
TA appointment, yeah.
right, so that one's gonna just sit empty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that's an elected position. I
Yeah.
mean, I pop on when I have to talk to them, but other than that, unfortunately, I don't pop.
And I'm doing such a poor job of the ones I'm liaison with anyway, adding another one just gives me another one to do poorly, so. I'm hoping to do better.
We're giving you an
think it also,
opportunity to
like,
improve, Scott.
Historic made a special meeting at evening so that I could attend and then I didn't
And then you
attend.
did. Nice.
It was the day I got back from a trip and my brain was just in a totally different space and I'm finally settling in and going, I thought there was something tonight and like, oh,
I know
You-
you are without a doubt, though, the one that's most interested in historic.
I am,
so
I'm
yes,
definitely,
I
yes,
mean,
yep.
You might get a question that other
Yeah.
elected boards have a liaison, but not Board of Health.
and I know Paul did also seem to want to be kept more in the loop.
Yep.
Rock, paper,
When,
scissors.
when we get a fourth and fifth select board member, this becomes easier because
becomes
right now
easier,
we're
yeah.
all covering 4 or 5 of them
Yeah,
already. And so
It's a lot.
it is a lot to get done in a month, even if you're just watching the videos online, you're
Yeah.
adding.
and I think it's a lot of it is just reaching out to whoever and making
what
sure
them,
that
Yep.
they keep you informed and doing the same when we do something maybe here that applies.
Yeah,
How is it split? So far, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3,
So one equal.
now,
4. 1, 2, 3.
I have more that I'm doing poorly at than you guys are doing good at.
Well, I think isn't it 4 and 4 and 3?
4, you know,
Well,
1,
Scott has
2,
5.
3, 4,
you have
5,
5.
yes,
Okay.
I have 1, 2, 3, and Lisa has 1,
2,
2,
3, 4.
Fine, give me Board of Health. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can, yeah. You sit smiley over there. Go ahead. Where's your daughter? Piper, walk out with your mother at the end of the meeting.
Violence is not the answer.
Okay.
I did not encourage violence.
I didn't even want to know what you were implying then.
Mm-hmm.
Town council policy.
Okay.
So in our effort to do policies,
Yeah.
a few every meeting, grabbed the town council contact policy. And
here.
it's actually called use of legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, after I had put it on there, I realized it actually had a different title. But I put it into the format that the board agreed upon, and I did make some minor changes to it that you can see on
One of
track
your favorite
changes.
ones, Peg,
Mm-hmm. Yes, it
a
is.
select board, not board of selectmen,
Mm-hmm.
which tells you probably how old the policy.
Old. They're all old.
And the intent of this policy really was to make sure that we don't have $800,000 legal bills because random committees and people started just calling up the lawyer to do things.
Correct. And if they didn't like an answer, then they called to see if they could find their own answer. So
Right.
that crap
Yeah.
needs to be.
And I don't think
stopped.
we've had the problem that we had,
No,
but
it's
but
great.
that's because we have a policy and so.
Only had one incident in 3 years of someone reaching out to town council without going through our office. So
Well, you know
it's
what?
not
And
too
the,
bad.
and the nice thing is that, again, we have this nice little piece of paper that says, oh,
Yep.
insert person name here, you reached out and they gave us a bill for $800. So guess what? It's now yours.
Yeah, you do that, but that's still tax dollars. At
I
the end
know.
of the day, the taxpayer is still paying it. And so we're trying to,
Oh, this actually does say though that they could be held personally responsible
Yeah.
for the payment of
Yeah.
associated
Yeah.
costs.
I had a bunch of, I did run both of these through ChatGPT and I had a bunch of recommendations on them, which I now cannot find because I was on ChatGPT so much today. But there were several that made a lot of sense. I can just find them.
When you find them, do you want to run them and then we'll just put it up for a quick review vote? in the
Yeah.
Upcoming meeting.
Or if there's a lot, what I could do is I could do another track changes version and bring it back, whichever you guys prefer.
Yeah, I'd just be curious to see what Lisa found.
It was, the summary was like, oh, that's the outdoor policy. Sorry. Where's the legal one? Add example clarifying which departments, boards fall under the select board jurisdiction, introduced an emergency provisions allowing limited direct access to legal counsel with immediate notice and documentation. Clarified what constitutes billable use of legal counsel, improved enforcement language to reflect personnel policy and liability alignment, enhanced the request form with fields for conditions or limitations and date returned to requester. I feel like do you use that form even? It seems like it's more emails, but
I have not used this form.
so I was gonna ask that
People
question
have
too. Does it
mostly-
really need a
I
form?
didn't think it really needed it. It was there, so I didn't want to remove it without input from the board. But people have been really good about either calling, coming by, or emailing and saying, hey, this is what we need to do.
Right,
can-
and the writing of the policy says that you need your written, they need to make a written request, but it doesn't say they have to
And
use
the-
that form,
that
and
form.
so
I
I
would-
think that I'd make the form go away.
Yes,
I'm absolutely fine with that.
less paper is
Yeah.
always gonna be good.
Well, in most of the same kind of thing, most of the language is just trying to simplify and just, some of it's just personal preference.
Right,
Yeah.
So it's nothing substantive, really.
right.
Yeah, 6 years, it's time.
Yeah, so I can send you over the edits that made, or you could just run it through because they'll probably come up with the same one. You just ask it for recommendations on how to improve the policy.
Okay.
I would do that with anyone because I'm gonna do it every single time.
Okay, all right. No, this is good. I'm still getting.
And
used
it's
to using
really good at these. This is like its superpower is, if it was
It's
giving
policy.
stupid recommendations, I'd say, oh my God, don't do that. But it gives really good recommendations because they're so common.
Well, now that we have it, I can certainly make a point to do that. And then what I can do is, unless there's any other changes you want, I can just redline the new ones and put it back on the next board agenda. If that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, and if they're, I might put them on the consent agenda next time, if they're not substantial. I think the first time we look at a
Yeah.
policy, I don't think I'm putting it on the consent, but it's something that we're like, oh, go back and run it through ChatGPT and make it a little
Yeah.
bit better, and as long as
Just,
Kristen, you and I think there's not substantial, and if you guys think it's consent, pull it off consent agenda, we'll get to it.
and normally it's just like, it's filling the holes
Right.
that when we're reading it, I don't even see them. And then it comes back and I'm like, oh yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
And it will put the language right in there for you. It will do all the things. You don't even have to like,
Maybe my secret new superpower. I don't know.
And that could be the same for the use of town-owned property policy.
Yeah.
Which is not on letterhead, but
Oh, I uploaded the wrong one. I'm sorry. I did put it in the format. What did I do?
Yeah, can you be sure when you talk about no smoking, can you also do no vaping?
Sure.
And I think $50 is way too cheap. Jack that fee. You leave trash. Fork over $200 to pick it up. Cause that'll force you to pick it up.
oh, yeah,
What do you think?
$50 is
200?
200 easily.
yeah.
Yep. Or just put a 2 in front of it, 250.
This is how high-end policy is made, which is, I would 250, actually, I was about to say it's the same thing, you said 200, just put a 2 in front of it.
Yeah.
Yep, 250.
Because if we're paying.
you know, I think I agree because I want to make it prohibitive. I want to make it so that somebody doesn't go, oh, I'll just pay the $50.
Right.
It's no big deal. Yeah.
And then we pay highway 3 hours to clean it up,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
it's not just the cost of the highway, it's the opportunity cost, so they should be doing something that's more important to the town.
But you need to define to, if somebody misses a cup or misses it, it needs to be an egregious sort of thing.
And who's going to enforce it?
And it may also come down to just, you don't get to use the property anymore. I'm so sorry, you have a year timeout or whatever.
And/or,
Take down your signs.
right, take those BBC signs down, and/or what happens if somebody just squats and doesn't ask? Oh, look, the pavilion's open, hey, nice weather, wanna come over? Okay. So do you put something in there of unauthorized use and then you jack that fee?
No, I think a family just
Once
doing a
again, I-
picnic at a pavilion.
I think you do need to, if you're gonna do this, you do need to talk about enforcement, and if we're doing,
Yeah.
who is gonna enforce this? Who is going to do these fees and
That's a
collect
really
these
good
fees?
point.
So
I'm so mad. I put this in the pretty format
Yeah.
and everything, and it looks like I may have deleted the.
I mean, the thing is that, if it's, hey, Scott, you wanna get together and, let's have a, picnic of the families, that's not a big deal. But if it's, hey, Lisa, wanna have an anniversary party where we're inviting 500 people, that's giantly different.
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna ask, the weather's nice on Saturday, meet me at 1.
Yep.
But again, you might have to invite or involve rather, Eric
And-
for enforcement.
I forget, what is the problem we're trying to solve with this policy?
I think that it just was, people were using it without asking and just leaving crap, and highway had to pick it up, so.
We don't have any policy for use of town-owned property, especially to get like insurance certificates
Yeah.
to make sure that there's not, like you said, trash, noise, mess, upsetting
Traffic, yeah.
adjacent neighbors.
Time. Yeah,
We had a request last year, someone's right, to use it, and we had no policy, so we
couldn't say no.
pretty much.
That makes sense. At least this gives you parameters to be able to say no as a board if somebody is doing something that you deem inappropriate.
Mhm. So this one may take a little bit more time to weed out and bring in Eric and things like that, as you determine who's going to be enforcing the cleanup fee or a squatting fee. But it's a good start.
For sure, if we build a nice pavilion down in South Common, someone's gonna want to use it for a wedding. Wedding venues are outrageously expensive, and if you're a resident, get away with that, and I would be totally happy for residents occasionally having their own
Oh,
weddings in
absolutely,
town.
absolutely.
Oh, they can do weddings right now in 1870 Town Hall. It's a rentable space. Other comments on this that you'll take back and redo?
I think it's good first pass.
In Google Drive, you can recover up to 20 days. Agenda. COA van discussions. This is coming back to something we had at the last meeting where several of us walked away with different impressions of the thing, and why I have to get better at calling votes on stuff so we can have clarity about what we've actually decided and not decided. And so Peg, you had the
Mhm.
bigger concern. Do you want to just?
I did, I mean, in last month, we spent at least an hour with COA. Realizing that there are no plans in place, there are no routes in place. There was an initial request by the COA director to say that she wanted to use volunteers and or senior work-offs until we could figure out the timing of this. And I am just dismayed that every one of us had questions, and I was under the assumption that they were coming back to give us their plan. And then magically, lo and behold, a job is live and posted. So I'm kind of wondering, my assumption, breakdown in communication, how did all those questions just get skipped?
Yeah, because I thought they left with permission to post the job, that we were gonna give them 4 to 6 months because they were in a catch-22, that they don't have riders because they don't have a driver, they don't have a driver because they don't have riders. And so because that's the residents of town meeting, over our recommendation and over
Mhm.
FedCom recommendation, wanted to put money into this, that we allowed them to hire the driver that given them 4 to 6 months to see if the riders, and that there's a number out there of number, if at that point they're getting 1 rider per week, it's clearly a failure and we should stop. If they're getting 20 riders a day, it's clear success. And despite my misgivings, we should be in the transportation business. And there's probably numbers in the middle where we'll disagree, but I wanted to allow them out of their catch-22. So I thought they were given permission to post.
I did too. I wasn't at all surprised when I saw it, so I kind of was under the same impression.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when we left that discussion, there were just too many unanswered questions that I was comfortable with having them go forth and just say, hey, here's a job, and we'll kind of figure it out as we go. I am not comfortable in the way, if that is the way that's kind of happening, that they're playing it as they figure it out. I don't work like that. I don't do that. I want to see a plan. You know, what's a route? Is Nashua a route? I don't know. Is Bolton a route? I don't know. You know, is it Market Basket Tuesday? Is it doctor appointments Thursday? It's just stuff like that. The details I was missing and
And I
could
don't
not
think-
find any information.
I don't think they could possibly know the answer to those questions until they have people requesting the service. And they don't have people requesting the service because they don't have a driver. That's the catch-22.
I know, and I get that, but I would have liked a little bit more planning to say, at least we're thinking about, and we want to try, and we're gonna give it, and if that doesn't work, here's our plan B. To me, this is just, ooh, we have a grant, we have money, okay, let's go hire people and we'll figure it out as we go. Then how do you know if it's working or not working? Because 1 ride a day might be good for me, 1 ride a day for you is not good.
Luckily, we'll get to have that conversation once we know how many rides they have a day and where they're really going.
Is it worth me going to have a conversation with Melissa?
You're the
I'm the liaison that would like me to have a conversation with Melissa about how her planning is going
Yes, please.
and bring it back to you.
Look at that. Talk about just in time. Just in time planning. Yes, please. All those questions that we asked. To get an idea of what it is. And I am totally okay that things might change. But just don't enter into a plan with absolutely no plan.
And the other piece I think it's important to note right now is they did get a grant.
Yes.
So that money will pay for the experimental phase of this
Mhm.
and the see whether it works phase, which I think is more palatable, certainly to
Then
me.
here's my tax money. Go try and figure it out.
Yeah, so I think that is a really positive thing.
I had the exact opposite impression,
Oh, did you?
that the taxpayers of the town said they wanted to pay more in taxes for this driver. And that we could use that money first. And the grant money is the most flexible of the money, because the money the taxpayers voted on can only be used for the driver. The grant money can be used for a whole variety of other things. And so you only. Break your money first. You take a lot more restricted money first.
Oh, interesting. And I figured because we got the grant, which we didn't know if we were gonna get the grant, and that came in more recently, you would use that first in case it's a failed endeavor.
Yeah, my thing is always to minimize the drama where I can, so I thought that would minimize the drama.
Oh, you got lots of questions to answer.
Well, and I think that there are a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
I do agree.
Yeah.
I saw that as something for Melissa to work out with the COA and, you know, me, if she had a higher level question. Some of it seemed like those kind of day-to-day things that needed to be worked out, but yes, they do need to be worked out. So I think they're very valid.
I'm okay with just an outline. I don't need specifics, but marketing, you know, oh yeah, we're gonna run it. Well, have you? I don't know. Routes are, well, I don't know. Type, I don't know. So that's where I struggled with, wait a minute. There were too many unanswered questions for me to move forward with hiring a person. And again, my nitpicky of Sally's hired for 19 hours a week. And I understand we can't do it until we have data, but it drives me up the wall that Sally might be sitting there for 19 hours a week, not doing anything. Is that an efficient use of money?
I did see Bob yesterday and he said they did have somebody who was volunteering who would become paid that would not charge if they were not driving.
Wow, legally, can you do that?
I don't know, I'm just telling you, I'm reporting.
I know.
What?
I know.
COA director. told
Time
me
that's not
yesterday.
efficiently spent at startups, at the start of any project, is not well done.
I know.
if I'm allowed, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the posting of the COA van driver at 19 hours a week, and that the COA is allowed to decide how the best use of the spending of COA money.
So moved.
I mean,
I know to move, I
I'll
will second
second.
it to move
Yep.
forward that I know that we have to second it. I will
well,
just.
I have no problem seconding it. I thought I was even making the motion,
No, you
so.
did.
You did.
Right, so
yes.
if she
Oh, so
seconded
she
it,
seconded
I
it, all right,
seconded it, yeah.
okay.
you want more discussion on it?
No, you know what? I am not gonna be the one to beat this to a dead horse. I will hold my questions and then I will just attack as appropriate when I don't see information come back. So, and that's what I said that I was going to do. So that's what I will continue to do.
Let's see if we can
Yep.
get some
Yep.
information back. Let's go that route.
If there's not more discussion, we'll do the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Board questions, liaison updates. I am fine. You, Lisa?
Um, Oh, I forgot to say thank you to Chief Shartner, Chief McQuillan, and Kim Bratton, our election clerk, for attending the ADA assessment at the school, because everybody else was busy that day and they all stepped up at the last minute, and I really appreciate that. The Housing Trust signed the contract with CMRPC to design the first-time homebuyers assistance program. We've got a kickoff meeting on Tuesday. And then we're gathering quotes for the perk test, and Kristen was gonna look into how we got potentially permission for DPW to do more digging, because if they can do the digging for the perk test, it would be cheaper. Whether that was possible or not. And one of the folks who was giving the quotes recommended that might be a way to minimize costs.
Yes, and Fred was on vacation last week. He got back today, so, and I didn't want to totally bombard him all at once, so I will follow up with him tomorrow.
Cool, thank you.
Do you have a description of exactly what the digging would entail?
They're the perk holes.
Or how
The
many?
actual, I think it's 5.
5, okay.
I think that's what Kate said, but I can verify that for you.
Yeah, that would be great. I think Fred might just ask for a little detail.
I don't think they're big holes, but I've
No.
never had this done, but I don't think they're big holes.
Yeah. Okay.
And they would tell him right where to put them. Oh, and then I did want to bring up I think somebody from the board should go to the MMA Select Board Association Leadership Conference if possible. I am in Croatia, so it's not me, but I think
What's the date?
if it's possible, it's October 9th. Those are really, really good to sort of, if you're feeling a little frustrated, it's nice to network with folks and get answers to things that you're struggling with, or just like come out of it feeling just a little bit more energized about the whole thing. So, and then there's also ditto on the MMA conference, and that's January 22nd to 24th. I went to that last year, and I think if possible, somebody should go. That one's in Boston. The select board one is also in Boylston, which makes
Yeah.
it even a bigger shame if nobody goes.
I'll try to remember this too, but select people to go to those on the next agenda.
And let me look at.
So it's
the-
better than just someone should go, that we have a
Yeah.
formal conversation and we
Yeah.
draw straws, odds or evens.
Let me look at costs and.
We're
budget
back to
too.
rock, paper, scissors since Lisa's out of town,
We're
so,
working on
you know,
it.
just saying.
Well, and yeah, as a whole, sort of conversations of MMA events, which are good to go to, but select board should be getting to some of those as
Mhm,
much as
absolutely.
the two of you,
Yeah.
so.
No, I think they're really helpful. I walk away with something from every time I go. That's what I had.
Oh, rec. Apparently there's been discussions with the kids down there regarding their trash pickup or lack of. There was also a
It's being a program or just generic
Kids.
youth?
kids, generic youth. There was also a concern from a local resident who would see younger folks riding around their bikes all over the pavement. There's concern about how much damage it's gonna do to the pavement, how much damage it's gonna do to
Pedal bikes on pavement?
pedal bikes and also from,
ATVs.
Right.
yeah,
On pavement,
yep.
like cars and trucks and school buses?
No, like the little 4x4s.
No, but I mean, that they're doing damage on pavement that's trucks and school
Oh,
buses
I
and
don't-
cars are not doing on pavement?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just brought up by a resident that kids were spoken to with an attitude of
On the roads?
on the pavement, on the playground, sorry, on the tennis court.
Oh,
Get that out.
I was gonna say, like,
Sorry.
driving vehicles on roads, and usually vehicle roads are forward, so that's why
No,
I was
no, no,
confused.
on the
Okay.
basketball
Yep.
court and into the tennis courts. So rec did say that they were looking into getting some signs to hopefully put up
Hate signs.
there as well. The bleacher donation letter, Kristen, you have, yes?
Yep.
Has anyone confirmed, Felicia did say that the stone dust is down, but I don't know. I cannot confirm that. I have not driven by in their timeline to get the stone dust down and the staking down is coming quickly. So we will follow up on that.
You want me to ask Fred when I talk to him about?
Yeah,
the
see if
perk
he,
test?
yeah, when he whizzes by, if what's going on there. The MyRec software is in process. They still need some additional training before they can use it. They have decided that here, do you need a pen?
Yes.
That their position that they initially wanted as for a rec director will be a rec coordinator. Kristen, I did let Felicia know that the job description needed to go by you first. I don't know if she has sent it.
I have not received it yet.
Okay, so that was the night that I texted you, whenever that was, what, 2 weeks ago? So I
And we
can,
approve job descriptions too, right? It goes to her to come to us to approve.
no, it goes for you, to her, to personnel,
Well,
yeah,
right.
and then back. So I
Right.
can follow up on that.
And that position does report to the select board through the town administrator, so
Yep.
that is why
Yep.
I would need to review it as well.
Oh, by any chance, Kristen, did you get a chance to talk to Fred about removal of poison ivy, if that's a highway thing? On the in the playground,
Email, let me.
I guess there's some poison ivy popping up, so I don't know if Felicia was gonna reach out, or if it was easier for you to,
Poison ivy.
in the playground.
Not the tennis courts.
Correct.
Okay.
The playground over by the school. Concom, really, the whole big thing that's going on, that they will decide at their next meeting is what to do with the parking area.
Hmm.
There's concerns that the pavement stay in place because a member is deeming it historical pavement, while the plan that was approved by us and don't look at me like that.
No,
That, what?
but members are allowed to have opinions.
Yeah,
Just because a
but-
member has an opinion does not
That
mean it's an
means
opinion of the body.
changes the.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
that also kind of goes against the approval that was done by them and by the town, that the pavement would come up
Right.
and actual
Right.
spots
Yep.
would be put in.
Yep.
So that seems to be the big thing on that.
We have full authority to make the decision that they as a board.
I
like to.
know.
One individual member is not a
Right.
committee.
I know,
And people are allowed to have opinions.
they, let's see, what else What about down there? It's just normal going on stuff. And of course, Lisa tells me when energy is, and that's the day that I didn't get out of work until 6:30, so apologies to the energy committee. So Kristen, a couple of questions I had for you. In one of your follow-up, you had talked about parking at the old highway barn.
Yes.
Who's gonna draft a letter, and is there gonna be a penalty if cars are parked there? When are we going to do that? Is there a time frame to get that done?
So if this is something the board wants to explore further, I can put it on the next select board agenda. Kind of came in between
Yep.
meetings. So if you'd like, I can do that.
It falls under you can't do nice things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because there'll be penalties for nice things.
Correct. And then was wondering if we have any status of the town website.
Oh, yeah. I
Yes.
also had that question.
We had a meeting scheduled last week. We didn't meet with Mike Tessino. from. No, but we didn't have that overall meeting with him.
Yes.
There's a few more departments that he's waiting to catch up with. One of them is us. So we have a meeting, I believe it's tomorrow morning, to go over our specific website. And select board and town administrator. There are a couple other stragglers, so I gave him some additional contact people to reach out to because he wasn't hearing back from a couple of people. And I also got the news that we're going to be able to go into a different format for the website too. So I just need to go through the contract documents. They're saying it's no charge, but I need to make sure we need to, get that process moving, select a format, et cetera. But I can tell you that from what we saw, it looks a whole lot cleaner and nicer than what we have right now. And basically it's coming at no cost because they're getting rid of Drupal.
Hallelujah.
It's supposed to be easier to work with too, like. it's
It
supposed
could
to able
not
to
be harder.
Type next to things like when. you
It could
go block-
literally not be less intuitive than it is right now.
Right now you have to like go into folders and do things. This, you're supposed to be able to click on something and change it. So hopefully that's gonna make life easier for folks.
Okay, those are my questions. So yeah, if you can follow up with Fred on rec on the stone dust.
Yep.
And the tie down, I can follow up on the job description to come to you, because they had approved it, they being the rec committee had approved it that night.
Okay, great.
So I just want to make sure it doesn't get lost and we
Will
can.
do. And then we
kinda
can
giddy
call
up.
a personnel committee meeting.
And that's all I got.
In the energy thing too, if anybody is interested in energy, there is an open seat on energy. So
And now's a good time to join it too, because we have the consultants will be
Oh,
coming in. There's
That's
actually a lot happening there that both, I'm sure you could learn not only things that help the expending of tax dollars, but all the stuff you might learn to make your own properties and stuff, more energy efficient and save things too.
I was just gonna say, I've learned more about Mass Save since I started and
Yeah.
I'm kind of geeking out over
Oh,
everything. that I've
Mass
learned.
Save is an
Really
incredible resource. Everyone should have a Mass Save energy audit done of their place. They're free, and the amount of pointers I got that have improved my electric and utility bills is a lot.
yeah, and it's helpful if you have some experience in engineering or some other, but it's not necessary.
I added the parking lot conversation to future agenda items,
Perfect, thank you.
so we're less likely to forget. I think we don't have an executive session. So it could be a meeting, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.